Edition of Primetime. Big Sook, how we doing?
Ahoy! I do have Versace updates, though.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, so Rob's back on Thursday, and Versace sent me a little thing today. He said, he just said he was back on Thursday. I said, sounds good, man. Hope it was like, awesome. And he said, oh, it was, fella. Lucked into passes to something called Berkman's Place. It was unreal. Another level, we'll tell you about it, but just know that my close personal friend, Peyton Manning, was the greeter.
So, okay.
Apparently, and that I responded with, this whole rebrand is going fantastic. Yeah. Like, Isaac Robb doesn't get to meet Peyton Manning.
But Versace does.
But apparently Versace does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Isaac Robb went to the Masters a couple years ago. Nothing cool happened. Versace goes to the Masters.
Well, what was the one thing
He's rubbing shoulders with
Fowler's
Peyton
wife? Was that it? That he?
No, we didn't meet anyone's wife. He just was standing next to
them. Okay.
to someone's wife, and then he claimed that Allison Stokies wanted him.
Well, I didn't know that Peyton Manning was down at the Masters. Not surprised that he would be. One, he has his own green jacket. Did you know that?
He's got a green jacket?
I didn't know he did either. I don't know if he was an honorary something at some point, but
I know that there's people that are that work at Augusta that can get a green jacket.
Sure, people who are on different boards and committees and things like that. But I saw George Kittle had an Instagram post. He was down there with some friends, and it was Kittle and Kirk Cousins and Peyton Manning all hanging out at Augusta. And Manning was in a green jacket with an official Masters hat.
Well, apparently Manning's working a door at some place that Versace found a way to go in. So. Just when Rob comes back on Thursday, apparently we have tales of hanging out with Peyton Manning.
I love it.
Yeah, that's my Versace update live from the Masters. And apparently he's doing well.
Well, I did want to revisit one thing also from the Masters yesterday. We talked to start the show about the Julia Westerman issue of winning the lottery. Well, not an issue for us, but an issue for many other men out there.
Fragile men. If you don't know, every year the media members down there covering it get to enter a lottery, and someone gets to play the Masters. Someone gets to play Augusta National after the tournament. And this gal won it this year, and she had never played a round of golf. And, of course, every fragile-egoed male was livid about this.
How could she take someone else's spot?
I think Dirt was doing this, too, saying he's demand that they – I don't know if he was demanding. Dirt was upset. There were some people –
He said he was upset collectively for all the other reporters who actually play golf or something
like that. But there were
that.
Fragile-egoed men that were demanding that she hand it over to someone. Like Joe Fish was in here, too. He's like, well, I hope she's doing the right thing and giving it to someone else. Oh, okay. Cool, you get a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but a bunch of dudes say that you can't keep it because you got a skirt and you don't play golf. So hopefully she went out and shot 172 and didn't care.
So we have an update from Julia.
I have not seen this.
So she tweeted this during our show yesterday around 5 o'clock. She said, all right, this week I learned, 1, I should be more specific about my golf experience. So now I'm thinking, okay, maybe she has played. She has played before.
You're saying she's gone to like Top Golf.
And then she goes, she says, 2, Scotty Scheffler and I can both bogey number 7.
Oh, there you go.
And then playing Augusta National is everything you'd think it would be and more. I am unbelievably grateful.
So again, and to every man that thinks that she should have given that away, get bent.
Experience of a lifetime. You're not giving it up to anybody.
And grow up. Exactly. Although I did see someone on Twitter that posted, and someone sent it to me and was like, hey, would this interest you? And I did think it was an intriguing sort of thing. To someone that's a regular golfer that's good, this may not be a thing, but to your average hack, the idea was, could you win the Masters? Did you see this?
I think I saw this.
Yes.
I think I know where you're going.
Someone posed the idea, could you win the Masters if you got to start every hole on the green? So they're saying, wherever the furthest point is on the green, and some of those greens are undulating and massive.
Yep, and they're brutal.
Yes, you could be 150 feet away, but on some of the par threes, you'd be closer.
4 shots to get it in on a lot of them, 5 for some.
But that is the idea: is that everyone else has to play from the back. So Scheffler, what did he finish at?
He was like 11 under, or something like that. Yeah,
right. So you get your 4 days, and you start. You're doing nothing but putting. You are on the fringe of the green, the furthest point away. Could you win the Masters? And again, it was hilarious to see every bro. What are you talking about? A course record? Really? Really? You're like, you know how many 2-putts I'd have? Yeah, you just 2-putting the greens at Augusta, my friend. I'm just out there from 140 out, just 2-putting your way.
My initial reaction is, of course I could. And then as soon as I start thinking about the furthest point on all of those holes, I'm like, I don't know, man. It's like mini golf out there for some of them, putting on glass. And I just...
Look, I will say this. If you put me in any sort of competition with Scotty Scheffler, he will beat me. So I do not believe. And by the way, you're talking about the pressure of playing at the Masters. Look, I'll go out to a really nice golf course sometimes, dude, and it's not a guarantee that it's a guarantee that I'm 3-putting half of the greens.
Yeah.
And that's me not starting on the green. You're putting me at the furthest point, and you're telling me that, like, I mean, you think you're just gonna tap your way to it, Happy Gilmore style?
And for those of us who've played, and I have not played many courses like this, but a couple of the nicer courses I've played, a Pumpkin Ridge or a Chambers or something like that, where you really have to navigate some of those greens. And if your ball starts in a certain spot,
you're done.
You have to hit a perfect putt, otherwise it's either going to come back to you or it's going to roll off. So there are all these things that I think the average or casual fan isn't maybe taking into account. I'm not sure they could do it.
It's this. Anytime someone proposes this, just again, fragile male ego. It's the same guy that thinks he can get in the ring with Mike Tyson. It's the same guy that thinks that he could go out and score on Giannis. Oh yeah, no problem. You kidding me? I'm putting. You should see my putting stroke. I'm out at Rose City. I'm draining putts left and right. Augusta doesn't know what's coming for it.
Vancouver Fort text line, I'd shoot a 250 just because of the pressure and everything that went with it. Yeah, 100%.
Oh, you kidding me? I'd be knee knocking that thing. Dude, there's times again I play nice courses that I have no business being on, and I'll have like a 10-foot downhill putt, and I'm like, oh my god, like and half the time I'll leave it short because I know that if I hit it at all,
it's going 40 feet.
Exactly. And you just watch it roll and roll and roll and roll. And you're like, cool, that's awesome. Really fun. It's great time. And now imagine Augusta National where that green kicks the best players in the world in the balls. But you, Captain Langdon Farms, you're going to go out there and you're going to bring Augusta National to your knees. You're the same guy when he gets off the plane in Vegas is like, Vegas doesn't know what we're bringing. Vegas isn't ready for us.
Vegas isn't ready for us. I love that guy.
Meanwhile, Dave is the assistant manager at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Hey, Dave, I think they've seen you before.
they know your type, and actually they have their
I would love to test this. Like, we should get one of, like, this is where you throw out one of the golfing YouTube bros and have them go do it. Someone who's, like, cool enough to where most people would watch, but also where Augusta would let him out. Like, I know a couple of years ago, someone went out and did if you got unlimited mulligans, could you shoot under par? And they actually went out to Shinnecock, and I think they ended up shooting under par.
Yeah, I think. Oh well, it was Portnoy, right?
I think
Dave Portnoy did it at Shinnecock Hills.
Mulligans?
He got one round.
Or I think it was Bethpage, maybe.
Maybe it was Bethpage, but it was like he had unlimited mulligans from any spot. But didn't matter, just off the tee, putts, anything.
But then in theory, like anyone, if you've played golf, could do that because you could just sit there until you hit a good shot.
You would think
but
so.
That's what he did.
You want to see if I could hit the perfect shot every time, could I go under par?
And there were parameters with it too, though. Like, he had to finish within a certain time frame. Like, he couldn't go longer than like 6 or 7 hours. It was like whatever the longest time it took a normal PGA pro to play 18. And he just sat there, and that's all he did. And he had ball shaggers, and he just hit and hit and hit and hit. And he actually ended up going under par. I'd love to see, like, this would be a great challenge. Yeah. Go and put it on TV.
I would love to see someone, because, let's not take a total hack, but let's also not take like a +1 that played on a mini tour. Mm-hmm. Get someone that's like a 6.
Like a Rop.
Oh, yeah,
Rop would be perfect.
Someone like Rop out there.
Rop and Rop's better than a 6. But yeah, like... Yeah, someone that's a good golfer, but nowhere near like a competitive golfer. And just I would love to see what happens. But by the way, if you took someone like me, if you took someone that's anywhere, let's go from like a 13 to a 20, the Augusta National, the greens destroy them. You're not beating Scotty Scheffler. But someone like Rob, I'd be intrigued. And when he comes back, I'd be interested to see.
Yeah, we'll pose the question.
Pose the question if he thinks he would do it. But it's just I just would love more of these, and I get why they don't do it because there's no benefit to the pro, and I'm not talking about washed up 55-year-old pros versus Joes. Yeah. I just think it would be hilarious to see. Like they said, the idea of like in every Olympic event, one just normal dude out of the stands.
What I think of in my mind's eye is when the Atlanta Braves started doing the freeze, the guy that could sprint and catch everybody who was running along the warning track, and like you basically just know that this guy's world class at what he does, and here's average Joe, and we're gonna see how long it takes to catch him.
Yeah, we talked about yesterday the guy that ran the Boston Marathon. He ran it in like 4:40, I think, were his average mile. I think he was like 4 minutes 40 seconds was his average pace for 26.2 miles. And like for someone to go out and be like, hey,
beat him for 1 mile.
That's what I said. Could you, if I put the person at mile 25, you had to run 1.2 miles, and that dude just got done running 25, could you beat him? And so many people are like, yeah, whatever, bro. I got this. I'm gonna sprint it. And you're like, really? You're gonna sprint a 4 minute and 40 a 4 minute 40 mile? That's what you're gonna sprint? Oh, and by the way, I'm not certain that he was sprinting at the end of his. Yeah, you're not getting that guy.
Yeah, that's insane.
Something tells me that he might be able to crank that up to like a 4:35 if it really mattered.
The way, I mean, when you broke that down yesterday, it's mind defying. It doesn't seem like it should be able to be possible for a human to do that.
We had a sales guy here that pitched in the bigs for a couple years. Nothing, just was a...
he played for the Giants for a little bit. I remember
Giants
him.
for a little bit, and we went out to the parking lot once, and he was throwing, and it's terrifying. And he just was like messing around, and he was like, hey, can you just throw one like kind of hard? And he brought it, and I was like, duh. And I said, how fast was that? And he goes, I don't know. I wasn't really warmed up. He goes, that was like mid-80s. He's like, that was maybe like 84. And I'm like, oh, I don't want, like, when you're just down there and you see someone up close that throws 96, you're going to stand in the batter's box like that. Hey, could you touch a 96-mile-an-hour fastball from a pitcher? No. Not only could I not touch it, I don't think I could get the bat off my shoulder.
You don't think you could bunt it?
No. Plus,
those guys have so much movement.
Plus, the idea that I would have the balls to stand in front, knowing that thing could be coming inside on me, no way. Like, there's no way.
What if I got to dress like a knight?
That would be the only way. If you gave me full, I don't want metal. I need like if I was dressed like the Michelin Man,
like
you gave me a bunch of tires, like a hockey goalie, then maybe I'd stand in front of that thing. But until then, no. If you've ever stood next to someone throwing even go to a batting cage and turn it up to the mid 90s and unleash it. When we rented out the Kaiser Volcano Stadium, they had a pitching machine that you could turn up. And I think theirs only went to like 90, and it was still terrifying.
And you hear all the average Joe bros like, oh, yeah, I could hit 90 when I was in high school. And then you go out there and it's like, oh, dude, no, I don't think so.
No.
Before we get too far down the sports path, and this hasn't been a very sportsy first 12 minutes, we do need to get to yet another encounter with randoms with one Jason Sakanik.
Yeah, people often think that I make these things up. They're like, there's no way you can get in this many Larry David conflicts. And I'm like, oh.
This one isn't even a conflict.
Hang out with me
I'm amazed at how normal this person's tone seems for the request that they lobbied you for.
I don't know why these things come my way. Couldn't tell you. But I was leaving the parking lot last night, and I pull out, and I see there's a note underneath my windshield. And I'm like, son of a... So I first thought that maybe someone had hit my car and had left a note. And so I was like, get out. And one, like, immediately looked. Was like, is there anything wrong with my car?
Scratch, dent, whatever.
No. And then I pull out the car, or I pull out the note, and it's handwritten in purple pen. And it's quite long. And I was like, oh, my God, what is this? And I quote, this is way more interesting than when someone left a note on my car calling me a soy boy.
This is much better than that.
Much better. I noticed your, quote, Stang, that would be my Mustang, came from a dealership because I leased my car, so it has a Vancouver Ford plate on the front of it. You may own or have a higher up position and was wondering. And again, I quote, if I could borrow it via a legally binding contract between yourself and I.
So a person who you haven't even met in person has left a note asking if they could just borrow your car via a contract for an unspecified
legally binding contract between yourself and I. Not only am I currently down and out for a vehicle, which, hey, you know what? Take mine. I don't need it. You know what? I got 9 extra. No problem. Hey, I got a new bicycle. You go ahead and take my...
No. I'm not really using it anyways.
You
go ahead.
Anyways. It's fine. So not only am I down and out currently for a vehicle, but maybe I can remember what simple joy feels like. Worst you could say is no. So I thought I'd ask. My license is good, and I believe he said I just got a GED.
I thought, I wasn't sure if that was GED or GPS.
Coming up in the world.
I don't know what that it's, but he underlined it. But I can't read it. No one seems to know what the hell that is. it's something.
But the rest of it seems to make quite a bit of sense.
And then shoot me a call or a text if interested, but after 8 p.m. He's busy. He's busy before 8. And they left his name and his number.
Yeah.
That happened. I had a stranger ask if I could just give him my brand new car.
For a while.
Yeah, for a while.
But under legally binding contract.
Legally binding terms. That way, like, in case I decided that I wanted it back, I'm like, sorry. He could be like, we have a legally binding contract. Could you just give me your car?
So next question, are you going to call him back or text him back?
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and leave that one be and pretend that I didn't see that note. Because my thought is, oh my God, please don't come and
But think of the stories you could have for tomorrow's show if you called him tonight.
Please don't come and like light my car on fire. Like be like, whoa, really? You don't want to give me your car? Cool, I'll just light it on fire. Please don't do that. Please. And do you have any control over how weird you are like that? Has anyone ever?
It seems from their perspective that this is so normal.
Just no big deal.
And though I like the justification as well. It's like, well, I haven't experienced joy in some time, and this would really pick me up. And you're like, oh well, now that you've explained it that way,
I think you should give to charity. I think this is classic. The rich won't give to the poor. We are the 99%.
It's not even mine. It's a leased
1%
car.
Sook.
I leased my car.
A likely story.
But you know what? You're right.
So you're borrowing on a legally binding contract.
Yeah, wait a minute. You're doing the exact same thing he said.
I am borrowing my car on a legally binding contract right now. The difference being, but you know what? Shame on me for paying for my legally binding car. You're right. Just take it. Just take it. Johnny, you are right. Just, this, I feel like I'm turning over a new leaf. I'm going to go ahead and give you a call and be like,
I think we should at least go out for a beer and just see. See what he's like.
What?
What a request.
Sometimes, man, the amount of run-ins I've had lately with people, there's part of me that wants to call.
People are fascinating, but how is it that you end up in these?
There's like a gravitational pull. I do want to call him and just be like, hey, this is the guy with the quote staying, and I just had one question for you. What the hell? Like, really?
What was that? Did you think I'd say yes?
What?
And I like that he acknowledges that, you know what, you're probably going to say no, but the worst you can do is say no.
I'm doing this next time I see a pretty girl at the bar.
Yeah.
I'm going to write her a note.
There you go.
I'm going to give it to her.
And then if you like her car, put it out on the car too.
On the car too.
Just to see.
I'm going to do both.
Mm-hmm. It's going to go well for you.
It strikes me as the sort of thing that, like, this is the only thing that bothers me is that, like, at some point he's going to be like, I'm just going to take it anyways. That's the sort of mentality where someone's like, you know what? I'm just going to take what you have because I want it, and yeah, that's about it. So just gonna go ahead and take it. But between the Craigslist and the Facebook Marketplace bike market that I've been dealing with lately, and then the soy boy notes for my parking, and now this,
the vehicle related run-ins of Jason Sakanik have become quite the chronicle. I don't know how you can hit him with this frequency. It's really impressive at this point.
I should write him back. Hey, what is it? Gas, ass, or grass? No one borrows this car for free, Johnny. So which one is it? Which one are we doing here?
See if maybe he would do some sort of trade deal. Maybe he has something that you want.
You looking for money or are you looking for something more sexual? I don't know, but we got to work out some sort of barter system here. I hate to do it, but yeah, I don't own the car, therefore I can't legally just give it to you. But maybe you can borrow it for like a weekend. It'd be great.
Well, unfortunately, it sounds like the answer for now is no. But
right now,
but we'll see later down the road. We will try to have a sports show today. We do have the NBA playoff play-in starting tonight. 2 games. One of them is a winner or a loser goes home. We had a dunk legend retiring. We had an owner picking up the tab. We also got insight into one team's pitch to the greatest basketball player in the world about 14 years ago. That was a wild one. Some transfer news and a new college football proposal with some details from what we heard about the college football of tomorrow. That's all coming up later in this show. Of course, we'll hit In the News, Hot 5 at 5, and The Club, where AI girlfriends will be a topic tonight.
Oh, Will, pay attention to that.
It's 3:20 on The Fan.
All right.
The Fan.
pointed out it could be an SOB edition of
That
Sue
is true.
Ortner and Buck. So
Yeah.
I kind of like that. We could roll with that.
I like
There
the
was
SOBs.
also another question asking us the origin of Isachi because they had missed that. And
it's the rebrand.
It's the rebrand. The reason it came about is because we got a new graphics package for our YouTube. If you're not following us there, check us out at 1080 The Fan on YouTube, where you can see all of our shows streaming. But we're not even sure at this point who the culprit was, but someone who put up Primetime with Isaac and Suk, they misspelled Isaac. And that does happen from time to time. People put 2 S's instead of 2 A's. But in this case, Isaac walked in and looked up. He goes, I've never seen anyone spell my name that way. And it was Issace.
Isachi.
And he goes, I don't even know how I would say that. Like, Ice. And I said, I think it's like an Italian brand, like Isachi. He goes, oh, I like that.
The rebrand is complete.
And the rebrand is on.
Now the rebrand gets him to Augusta National where he's hanging out with Peyton Manning.
Vancouver Ford text line also pointing out to us that Peyton's a member at Augusta National. That's why he has a jacket.
Oh, is he really?
So that makes sense.
How do you become a member at Augusta National?
I don't know. I remember didn't Condi Rice become the first female to be a member
she
there,
became
or just
because-
play?
I think Condi was a member. I do know that like there's certain positions, like the vice president or the president of AT&T gets one, and that happened to be a female too. I'm not certain how Condi Rice, if she applied or if she is in a certain position, but I know there are positions that if you ascend to those in companies, one of the perks is you get a membership at Augusta National.
Interesting.
Yeah, so if you become like the CEO of, I don't know, like
IBM or one of their
IBM or
corporate
whatever,
sponsors
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah,
then
sure.
they give you, here's a green jacket. But like just the regular rich dude, like, I mean, I guess it's Peyton Manning. He's not just a regular rich dude. They probably want Peyton Manning
You'd imagine,
at
yeah.
Augusta National, but I don't think like John Lynch or like Warren Sapp. It can't just be like, hey, I'm going to go.
No,
be a
it's not
member at
any old
Augusta.
football player.
Yeah.
Well, yesterday's AAA heating and cooling poll question, we asked if after Scotty Scheffler's win at Augusta, we wanted to know how much you care about a superstar's personality. Don't care about it at all. It matters, but not much. Or it is everything. 57% wins that with it matters, but not much. So we got the numbers back today, the Masters ratings, and down 20% from last year. But overall, like it's not.
They're flat. They're just kind of
they've just kind of plateaued.
most of the Masters numbers are going to be somewhere in that. What were they like? Was it 3.5? Right, 3.5, 4 million, something like that. Like
Yeah.
most years they're hovering right around there. Like during the peak, like when Tiger was winning Masters, some of those got up to like 18, 19 million.
Yeah, I think when they combined all of the rounds this year, it was something like 9 million or something like that. But it was
Yeah, but it averages out like on
right.
Sunday.
Averages out to like 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
like you're saying.
So it's. I'm looking here. The Masters rating Sunday's final round. Oh, that's way more than I thought. They're saying that got 9.5.
Oh, so that was just the final round. Then I saw the 9.5 number. I thought that was for the tournament. That's for the final round.
Yeah, that's the final round. I thought I saw yesterday that it was like at like 4 or something, but maybe that was
Could have been in a demo.
That was maybe it was a different day.
Oh, sure,
on that, but
sure. That would make
Sunday's
sense.
final round, which you would think would be the highest one. Yeah, about 9.5 million. So, that's nice, even though it was a 22% decline from last year's 12 million. But I think that the idea is that the Masters they draw numbers no matter what because it's the Masters. But when you have a transcendent figure like Tiger Woods,
Even so, though, if on that list, if I'm not mistaken, does that one have the Tiger Masters on it? Because I saw a graphic earlier today. The last one he won, it only generated like 11 million. So
really?
it didn't. I would have thought it would have been 50% higher than all the recent ones. And
yes, this is the TV rating for the Masters final round. Yeah, they do have it here. So this is interesting. So something is funky because it's TV ratings. Maybe this isn't millions. Maybe this is the rating because it said last year's, the 2022, is 5.8. And then it was 5.5. And this is what I was looking at yesterday.
Yeah, maybe that's the rating and
maybe
not
that's
the millions.
the rating and not the millions.
Because the rating
of
is a
people.
percentage of either
Yes.
households, TV sets, people in the
so
demo.
that has to be different because if this is saying last year was a 5.8, but then they're saying that it was a decrease to get, whatever it's 12 million people, then it has to be a difference between a rating and millions of people that are watching.
Well, today's poll question brought to you by AAA Heating and Cooling. You can, of course, find them at AAAIAQ.com. Family-owned business helping families for over 60 years. Asking you about not specifically about the playoff play-in format, but sports format changes in general. We do get the playoff play-in tonight. There's a loser goes home game between the Warriors and the Kings. LeBron was on the record 4 or 5 years ago saying that whoever came up with the play-in tournament should be fired. Well, then his Lakers have needed to be in it at like 4 out of 5 years. But the question today is with the start of the playoff play-in tournament, can format to changes to sports improve your own interest? The answer options are no, stop changing it all, yes, but rarely, or change it all. Why not?
Yeah, I think it can. I'm going to stop short of saying change it all, but I think it's a little more than rarely. Look, I think adding more NFL teams to the playoffs, I wasn't a fan of that. I didn't like the extra playoff game. I didn't like only rewarding one team with a bye.
Yeah.
I think you get very, very mediocre teams. Sub 500 teams can qualify. I don't think we need 8-win teams in the postseason.
And I think, how long has it been since we've seen one of those teams that far down in the seeding be competitive?
We've seen like the Arizona Cardinals went to a Super Bowl. The Giants went to a Super Bowl, won 2 Super Bowls, wild card teams. I'm not saying that wild card teams can't make it, but again, if you're a 500 team, I don't need you in the postseason. I just don't.
Yeah.
So, like, from that standpoint, I don't need an expanded one, but baseball, to me, in the expanded playoffs has been the best thing for it. I mean, you remember growing up, I mean, my God, you could get an 89, 90-win team that didn't make the postseason.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it used to be either you win your division or you go home.
Yeah, I remember I want to say it was in the early 90s, but the Giants and Braves, the Braves were in the NL West at that point in time, for whatever reason. They both won over 100 games, and they had to play a 1-game playoff to see who got into the playoffs. The Giants won 100 games that year and did not go to the playoffs. So expanding to wild card, expanding to another division, I think was great. I think college football playoff is way better than just putting 2 teams in for the BCS. I think if it's done right, it makes a ton of sense. In general, I kind of like this playoff play-in tournament because it gives us a team. The 9 and 10 teams, did they deserve a 7-game series? Maybe not, but give them a one and done, a one shot to play your way into it 2 nights in a row, and I'm here for that.
Yeah, the worst idea that you can ever have is it's always been done that way, therefore we can't change it. Like that's, there's no business that runs like that. It's silly. You know, imagine if, look at all the innovation that's going on. If you just had someone that's like, nope, this digital thing, no. I'm going back. We're going to be everything is pencil and paper. Like, that's a dumb way to do it. So yes, you should always reevaluate. And if something makes more sense, by all means, change it. But to say that you should just change everything and go willy-nilly, the NCAA tournament, for example. Like, I think expanding that tournament is ridiculous.
I do too. People are talking about a 96-team bracket. Get out. Yeah. No, thank you.
That makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Because that's already a tough enough gauntlet of one and done games to have to run for the best team in the country, and we're already getting teams that are either barely 500 or only got in by grace of the automatic bid in their tournament, and I think that's a great system too. But we shouldn't just start giving teams that are 13 and 17 bids. That doesn't make any sense.
By the way, I wanted to double check. I wanted to see the number, but yeah, in '87, after the Mets won the World Series, they won 92 games and didn't make the postseason.
And that happened a lot back then.
Yeah. So I mean, there was a run there when they were, because the Mets only won the one World Series, but those teams only made the postseason twice. They didn't make it with 92, 87, and 91 games during that run, and only made and didn't make the postseason. So yeah, you can change and evaluate things, but just be smart about it. Expansion or change for the sake of change is stupid. But when stuff makes sense or the sport is growing or needs to be contracted, you should always be willing to innovate and always be willing to look at your game. And I think as much crap as baseball is taken, and some of the ideas are stupid, see the World Series, counting, I do applaud baseball that and the pitch clock and baseball is and the shift. Baseball has at least been willing to say our game is becoming less popular and more regional and more niche.
They're trying things.
They're trying. And for baseball curmudgeon that it gets angry and shouts to the sky, that guy will always watch baseball.
Yep.
But they're trying to grow the sport, and I think that's a smart thing.
Well, with the playoff play-in starting up tonight, we got plenty more hoops to talk. I do want to shift gears a little bit. We're going to talk about the Caitlin Clark effect. We got some numbers from that draft.
I can't recall something that is a must-see event like no matter what she does.
Yeah.
It does not matter what she does. She drives eyeballs to. It's probably Tiger Woods the last time I saw something quite like this.
We'll talk about that. Plus, a dunk legend hangs him up, and the pitch to LeBron James. What happened there, or what were the Knicks thinking? That's all coming up. But first, Will with SportsCenter. still out. He'll be back on Thursday. We talked some Masters numbers earlier in the show. Want to talk, and I didn't think I'd be saying this today, some WNBA draft numbers. My goodness, the Caitlin Clark effect, we knew it was real when they were playing actual games, but they saw a massive increase. Last year, about 500,000 people watched that draft in the WNBA. This year, 2.45 million.
Almost 2 million more people tuned in. It's the first time I've ever watched the WNBA draft. And by the way, we didn't, we had it on, and I'm not going to say that we were staring at it the whole time, but the fact, again, give credit to the women's game because it's not just Caitlin Clark. Now, Caitlin Clark is the reason why anyone tuned in.
She's moving the needle now.
But there were 3 or 4 other players that were kind of household names that if you've been following. Brink was someone that people wanted to watch. Angel Reese. And by the way, I don't think this is sexist. I think it helps for a lot of men that a lot of these gals were really attractive.
Absolutely.
Like the Angel Reese, Cameron Brink dress photos.
They're stunning.
Dude, that thing was everywhere. I mean, hundreds of thousands of retweets. I mean, we had that, our Vancouver Ford text line, we're blowing up with that.
Mm-hmm.
Will's over there, like that. Will's just thinking in some way if he can just get a meeting with Cameron Brink.
A DM might have been sent.
Go halvesies on a fetus together. That kid's going to be worth millions. Year 2 genetic height. So,
we're both tall, good looking.
There you go.
Clearly, it's like
at least one of you.
So like there's a lot of those factors, but it doesn't happen without Caitlin Clark. Like, again, I'd say that even in this tournament, I thought the LSU-Iowa game was the one that elevated everything. But clearly, just the fact that Caitlin Clark, no matter what she does, draws eyeballs. She also, by the way, became the #1 selling rookie jersey in any platform ever. There's nothing. Fanatics, which, by the way, this is another strike on Fanatics, which is the most garbage company in the world. F that place. There is not a single Caitlin Clark t-shirt, jersey, sweatshirt, whatever. All gone.
Yeah.
Like, how were you not prepared that this was going to be a big deal?
And that makes me wonder, and because it's Fanatics, my guess is it's just that they weren't prepared. But I also wonder, were they prepared for a big number and it still eclipsed that? Because they haven't said what that number is, but they said that it eclipsed when Trevor Lawrence was taken first overall.
Lawrence and Wemby and all of the big name prospects that have come through all the different sports.
But I guess on draft night, Lawrence had been the previous kind of record holder in 2021. 3 years later, it's now Caitlin Clark.
So I don't know. I've said this a million times. I don't know where this goes. I don't know if college basketball next year, the women's game, who does have Paige Beckers is returning, Juju. I mean, there are some built-in stars already. I don't know. The game certainly is going to continue to grow, and women's sports across the board is on the rise. I don't know if anyone can pick up the baton that Caitlin Clark left. I hope so, but we may see this thing swing back significantly. Now, the real question that I think is more puzzling to me is, can this do anything for the WNBA?
Right, because I think finally you're at a place where it's maybe not just one person. It's like, oh, that gal can dunk, or oh, she was really good at Tennessee for those 4 years. Like, you're getting a handful of stars that I feel like, I don't know if I would consider them household names, but closer than that league has ever been, and all coming in at the same time.
And you're getting some S-talk.
You're
hearing the Tarasis of the world and that are taking shots and saying, hey, there's going to be a rude awakening and you're going to have a target on your back. So, I think the highest rated WNBA game of all time is right around 1 million people. I think it was one of the Las Vegas Aces championship games. 1 million people. Mm-hmm. Caitlin Clark was doing 12 million in like the Sweet 16.
And she got $2.5 million for the draft last night.
Yeah. So, and what was it, 20 something, I think, for the final against
18.7 million, I think.
Just under 20.
Just under 20.
But it beat the men's by 4 million.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I'm interested. I want to see, if this can translate, because there's part of me that just from the history of the WNBA, I don't know if anything can get a summer sport like that penetrates the masses. But if there is, I am done betting against Caitlin Clark. So I thought there'd be a drop off after LSU.
I think we all did.
I'm like, I know that there's going to be a big audience, but I was like, the LSU one was the perfect storm. There'll be a drop. There wasn't. It just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. So, that game one, if the WNBA is smart, I don't know what the schedule is, but they should do the Indiana Fever versus wherever the hell Diana Taurasi plays. Because, Taurasi's the one kind of taking some shots. Dude, get a big matchup there where someone is going to go at her and drop an elbow and maybe get a little rivalry going. Build on that. You have a generational star. This is what baseball does such a piss poor job at. It's like you get a guy like Ohtani, and it's to market the blank out of that.
Yeah.
Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, Adley Rushman. You've got some really great young players, or have had in the past with the Mike Trout thing.
Yep. And haven't done anything with it.
Push them.
Yeah.
So the WNBA, even if it pisses off the rest of the WNBA, who cares? Market the living hell out of Caitlin Clark. And if you're those other players in the WNBA, you can be mad all you want, but realize that the Caitlin Clark's contract is like $72,000 a year in the WNBA for each year she plays.
Yeah, no, the most she will make will be 4 years from now. The last year of her contract, $76,000.
And the reason why that is, and please stop with this is egregious that the women get paid like this. They don't make any money because no one buys tickets and no one tunes in, and the TV deal is crap. The only reason the league exists in the first place is the WNBA is subsidized.
And if the Caitlin Clark effect is real and they can start charging a lot more for advertising,
everyone gets paid.
Everyone gets paid more.
So you can be pissy that Caitlin Clark is getting all this attention and that, we had great players before that. Sure. But if she gets everyone paid and she gets more eyeballs and people start appreciating what you're doing and more people pay and pay attention and more people go to games and the TV deals go up, everyone gets paid. It's like when Tiger Woods was at his peak. Some people didn't like the coverage, but he got golfers paid.
Yep.
And Caitlin Clark so far has gotten everyone paid. So you cannot like it, but you sure as hell better embrace it.
What do they say? A rising tide lifts all boats?
Because that young woman, she moves the needle like not many things.
And she's taking people with her.
I can't remember the last time like I said, maybe I have to go back to Tiger back in the 90s, 97, 98 when he won the Masters, trying to take someone who just grabbed a sport and said, get on my back, I'm going to make people pay attention to it. And Caitlin Clark is doing that right now. Whether she deserves it or not, it's a moot point. People are watching in ridiculous droves.
We will shift gears coming up next to the NBA. A legend hangs him up, and could Jody Allen earn some goodwill by picking up the tab at Blazer games? One owner tried this. We'll let you know who. Coming up next on 1080 The Fan. next year. They will no longer be sharing Crypto.com Arena with the Lakers.
There's a lot of toilets in the new building.
Apparently so, and they're doing that thing, I guess, called, what's it called? The Wall, which is going to be their, for their most, the diehard fans. It's going to be the loud end of the floor.
Yeah.
And apparently Ballmer says he's going to reward people who stand up and make extra noise, and don't know how you're going to do it, but I like the idea, the sentiment. You want somebody who's going to try different things. Steve Ballmer's one of them. Well, last night, as a thank you to the fans, he picked up the tab on the Crypto.com Arena concessions for 19,000 fans. Now, I have searched high and low for details on what that consisted of. I don't know if everybody got a voucher. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't unlimited beer, but
I don't know.
But clearly, everybody got to eat for free, courtesy of Steve Ballmer.
I don't know what does a night of concessions bring in.
I know the cost because I just went to a Winterhawk game and I went to a Blazer game. You're looking at about $15 for a burger.
No. I'm saying what is
total take home?
What does a team make off concessions? Like what was his bill? You say 19,000 people. I'm assuming that's a couple hundred G's, maybe. I would. I'm not going to say that all 19,000 people buy something, but let's just say that if you averaged it out per person, you said $30. What's 19? I don't know. What's 19,000 times 30 or $40?
Yeah, let's see.
Something like that. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean,
I
you're going to have some people that bring their own food or don't buy anything, but you're going to have people that buy $100 worth of beer or wine or whatever else. So let's see, $19K times $30 a head. You'd be looking at $570,000.
Yeah,
so $500,000.
I think Ballmer can swing it. But.
Yeah, I'm sure he can, but I don't know that a ton of owners are going out of their way to do that.
I like Steve Ballmer.
I do too.
I think anytime you have an owner that cares and that is passionate, yeah, he's kind of silly sometimes, but you get a guy like that money isn't an issue. He's doing something cool like that for the fans. He's building an arena where he wants people to be loud and encourage people to do that and apparently not have to wait in line at bathrooms. I know that's a stupid thing, but if you don't know what I'm talking about, Steve Ballmer is claiming that he will have more toilets in his new arena than any building ever.
Basically, if you're going to have to go, you're not going to have to wait.
And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
The idea of someone who's like, hey, I go to games and it's terrible because you're not trying to go during the peak part of a game. You're trying to go in between quarters or timeouts, and no one wants to stand in line for 35 minutes at the can. And I think it's awesome that he's putting that sort of, I don't know, thought and money into this. And it's like, hey, I'm not gonna be cheap on this.
And obviously,
I think Ballmer is great for the game.
It gives you, it gives you good PR because we're talking about it today. But also, I imagine how fun it'd be to walk in as a fan that night and be like, "Whoa, everything's free? Okay, load me up, let's go."
Oh, I've heard that there's some music acts that do. They'll pick a random night, like some of the big stadium acts, where they'll do a lottery at the end of the tour. And one of the crew members wins the merchandise sales.
Oh, that's cool.
From that night, which
I like that.
Which can be, again, several $100,000s.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they'll do that where one person, the rigging guy or the lighting guy is like, hey, man, you won. And, here's a check for 375 G's. Congratulations. And yeah, that's
so it's like the opposite of credit card roulette.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun
instead of getting stuck with the bill, you get the take home.
Well, I mean, God, what would you give to have, no offense to old Jody Allen, but what would you give to have Steve Ballmer be in charge of the Blazers right now and not Jody Allen?
Quite a bit.
And that's why eventually when the team gets sold, I just hope it gets sold to, and I think at this point, there's not many people that are cheap that are buying teams because they're so expensive. But who's the Ishbia or whatever?
Matt Ishbia, the Suns guy.
Again, I think that guy seems like a bit of a putz. But if I'm the Phoenix Suns, a fan, I love that guy's my owner.
Yeah,
because he's a billionaire and he wants.
He cares.
Yes, he's not running it like a business necessarily. He's running because he wants to win.
Yes.
And he's giving
which is different than just to generate the steady revenue.
Yes, and there's a guy that took his team off of a crappy cable network, put it on regular TV, and then said, "Oh, by the way, if you don't have the ability to get, NBC, ABC, here's a free digital antenna. I will send it to you so you can watch our games." I love when owners do stuff like that. And it bums me out. And I'm not saying Jody Allen's the worst owner in the world, but she's an absentee landlord. And that
absentee
sucks.
is the issue there. It's not that that she's doing anything that generates feelings one way or the other. It's just that you don't know because you don't hear from her, and who knows how long it's going to be like that. I think what Ballmer's doing is great. One quick side note: a dunk legend hanging him up, Blake Griffin, saying that he's finally done today. Yeah. I mean, he hadn't been competitive for a while now, but I was thinking for a second: is he like the face of the Clippers all time?
For me, yes.
Or would you give it to anybody else?
I'd say. I mean, I think about when you said the Clippers. My first thought was Chris Paul.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, they were quite the tandem there.
He was the one that came to mind. But yeah, I mean, if you're talking Clippers, first off, there was no Clippers. That team was absolute dog mess forever.
Mm-hmm.
And you had that weird run. We had Quentin Richardson and Darius Miles, and Lamar Odom, which was mildly interesting. They still sucked.
Yeah.
And then Chris Paul and Blake Griffin made them relevant. They were no longer the worst team in the league.
I still remember the video that went viral because they traded for Chris Paul, I think either right at training camp or it was late in the game, and there was a video going out of Blake Griffin finding out as he was getting onto a team bus that they had just traded for Chris Paul, and that's when he grabbed, I think, DeAndre Jordan. He's like, "It's about to be Lob City," and that's how Lob City started, or the catchphrase is because Blake was like, "Oh my gosh, Chris Paul is going to throw me so many lobs," and he did.
Blake jumping over the Kia is a seminal moment because that's right around 6th to 7th grade for people my age.
Yeah.
That's a seminal moment. Like that is, to me, that's like one of the big, like, I remember how awesome that was.
Before his body crapped out, dude, Blake Griffin was a beast.
His athleticism was so freaking
awesome.
That dude was legit. So there was a random list. I just this from Clutch Points. I just wanted to look it up, and they went Chris Paul 1, Blake Griffin. Then they went Bob McAdoo, Kawhi Leonard.
Oh, McAdoo, okay, yeah.
DeAndre Jordan, Elton Brand, who you kind of forget about.
Yeah.
Elton Brand was good. And then you get into the Randy Smiths, Danny Manning.
Yeah.
You know.
They drafted Olowokandi number 1 overall, I think.
Kaman. Yeah, Olowokandi was number 1.
Yeah.
I remember Benoit Benjamin back in the day. If you want to get you want to go old school, like random crappy ass Clippers. You know, but they just Bill Walton played there for a little bit. Like I think that was back when they were the San Diego Clippers.
Yeah.
It's just that franchise for 40 years was just a waste of time and space. And now it's a real team, and it's cool that they no longer have to play second fiddle in an arena.
They're getting their own place.
They're getting their own place because that's awkward. Like when you go into the whatever it is now, crypto. It's not the Staples Center anymore. They have to cover up all the Laker banners.
Well, yeah, and
like you have no Clipper banner to you're like, what?
They give the Lakers like the theater effect on the court and stuff, and the Clippers are just like, nah, everything's lit up and open.
And that's the other one. I think Ballmer will not just settle for his team being the also ran team. I think it's awesome.
Definitely. Still need to get to some LeBron New York Knicks pitch news. That was leaked earlier this week. We'll get into the NBA playoff play-in coming up as well. But next, some more details about a college football proposal have come out. An official pitch deck was leaked, and we've got those details for you next. What the Super 70 league and divisions could look like. That's next on The Fan. Thursday.
But it's really not me. You're pretty much flying solo at this point.
It is because you're going to subject yourself to some torture.
Yeah, I'm gonna hate watch the Red Wings Canadians game.
They won last night.
While simultaneously hate watching the Capitals Flyers. It's the last game of the regular season.
Well, Swag would say, here's the situation.
And we think the Red Wings, who suck, and
Have to win.
and I hate them. They have to win, and we need Washington to lose.
And that's the only way.
That's the only way. If the Capitals tie, then yes. But if the Capitals win, it doesn't matter. Detroit is out.
So Capitals have to lose or lose an OT.
The Capitals and the Red Wings are tied. The Capitals own every tiebreaker against them. So there's actually 4 teams right now. It's kind of a fun day in hockey. The Capitals, the Flyers, the Red Wings, and the Penguins all are still alive for the last playoff spot. So if the easiest scenario is if Washington loses and Detroit wins, Detroit's in. If Washington wins, and then it doesn't matter, they're in no matter what. And then there's some other scenarios with Pittsburgh and Philadelphia where if they get some breaks going their way, but chances are it's going to be the Red Wings or the Capitals. The Canadians suck, and the Red Wings were down 2 goals with like 5 minutes to play last night and found a way to tie the damn game and then win in overtime to give themselves a chance, which only means that they're going to kick me square in the balls tonight. And watch Washington lose, and then they're going to lose to the Red Wings will find a way to lose to the crappy Canadians.
So basically, you're already doom and gloom, and I'm losing you for the next rest of however.
I have approximately 1% faith that the Red Wings are going to do anything productive tonight. They will be down by a goal within 3 minutes, and I will throw something. So I haven't cared for like a decade because the Red Wings suck.
But then at the very end they pull you back in.
Well, like they've been terrible, and so you just go into the season knowing that they're terrible. This year it was like maybe, and then they were like red hot for a while. For right before the All-Star break, they were like one of the hottest teams in the NHL, and I was like, well, maybe they can make a run. And then they Charlie Browned it, and I fully expect them to not make the playoffs for like the 9th year in a row. So there you go.
Well, coming up later this hour, some NBA playoff updates. The Bucks may be a bit shorthanded, and that's starting to be concerning if you're Dame Lillard and company. Additionally, we'll get to In the News, have robot dogs and sunset news for you, and we'll have some MLB musings. But before we get into any of that, a story that came about maybe 2 weeks ago about from a group called College Sports Tomorrow.
Yeah.
And this was the first reports of a group potentially trying to break away and create a college football super league. So we've seen some of the writing on the wall with realignment and whatnot with the SEC and Big Ten really bolstering what they have and people saying, oh, we're inevitably going to 2 super divisions. And now there's a group that is essentially saying, we have an idea about how to do that. And so we knew that was something that was being talked about. Now we have some more details to it. So Sportico is a company that reports on a lot of sports contracts, league contracts, things like that.
I follow them on Twitter.
They got a hold of the pitch deck for this, or at least the details of what it would look like. It was 11 slides in a deck, but there were a handful of new revelations that we didn't have before that were not previously reported. So those include a specific plan for sharing broadcast revenue with the players,
which eventually is probably going to have to happen because the unionization, the lawsuits we've already seen. Was it Dartmouth?
Yes,
that won theirs.
Yep.
By the way, just yesterday, or might have been, I think it was yesterday, Monday. The USC case just picked up again in court.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so there's another union, the National Labor Board for that area in California. They're just started to hear arguments in that USC case. That one has real potential because remember, they're arguing that not just USC are professional athletes, but they're going with the conference and the school. Where if USC won theirs, it would mean public and private universities.
Okay.
So right now, the Ivy League one was just private universities,
Sure.
and USC is a private university.
Yep.
But the lawsuit is saying that no, USC may be private, but the conference that they play in is
has
not.
public institutions.
And
yeah.
so therefore the ramifications would be much greater. So this one with USC could have serious implications of other public universities threatening to unionize.
Got it. Okay.
And if they unionize, then yes, they would have to collectively bargain, and that kind of ends the whole charade of amateur, and that's where revenue sharing and some form of that is coming eventually.
And so, and this is where, and we'll get back to the revenue sharing in a second. They had an interesting outline for that you frankly kind of laughed at because you don't think there's any way that we're
some of this stuff that they're throwing out is so stupid. It's like when a reporter asked the mayor of Tualatin, "Hey, would you like the NFL?"
Sure.
Yeah. "Hey, Ohio State and Alabama, would you like to make less money and be less powerful so that more teams can have a shot at winning?" Yeah. Where do you sign up? It's some of the proposals are really silly in this thing.
So among them is they said the revenue sharing is based on the class of each player, so that rostered freshmen will get 5% of the revenue share, sophomores 15%, juniors 30%, and 50% share for the seniors and graduate students. And then additionally, they're talking about things like having an NIL roster cap or a salary cap for your NIL that says you can't go over this much, but also if you don't use 80% of it for 2 years in a row, we'll relegate you. Relegation part of it as well.
Hey, Ohio State and Alabama and LSU, would you like a salary cap? Would you like to have to spend the exact same amount of money that Iowa spends? No.
Ohio State reportedly just spent $34 million constructing their roster and coaching staff. Yeah. You think Rutgers is doing that? No.
So that's.
And do you think Ohio State wants Rutgers doing that?
That's it's a non-starter. Even the pain of the different the freshman, junior, senior thing. Even that's going to be a rough challenge when considering so many of the best players in college football
leave before their seniors.
Yeah.
Is there any merit to if the piece of the pie is big enough that'll incentivize people to stay longer?
Possible. You could throw that out there.
Yeah.
But again, this would all have to be agreed to. And I'm not certain that athletes are going to say that if Caleb Williams is saying, whoa, I'm the best player in college football, I just won the Heisman Trophy, but I get a smaller piece because I'm young. Not certain that would fly, but it's not as egregious as the idea that you're forcing the big boys to play on a quote fairer set of rules.
So they also outlined how they would see the whole country divided up as far as divisions, conferences, etc. And they did it all by geographic region. So now we're reestablishing all the conferences that we already had that we've blown up and torn apart. But basically, you're getting 7 10-team conferences with what they're calling an underleague division of teams striving for promotion.
So you're just putting back the old conferences that had died. You'd bring back the old Big 8. You'd bring back the Pac-10.
So the West, the 10 teams in the West would be Arizona, Arizona State, Cal, Oregon, Oregon State, Stanford, UCLA, USC, Washington, Washington State. So it doesn't include Utah and Colorado. You're back to the old Pac-10.
Back to the old Pac-10.
And then your underleague division looks like some of the group of 5 powerhouse teams, the Boise State, James Madison, Liberty, Miami of Ohio, teams that have done it before that are trying to seek promotion, and then they have penalties for relegation for the teams that aren't making it or aren't
so
being
their
competitive.
idea is those 10 teams would fight for 2 spots to move up.
Correct.
And the teams that are in the 70 would never be subject to going
No,
down.
that would remain. It's that 2 teams are fighting to be part of the 70. It would also end in a 16-team tournament every year, 16-team bracket, which feels like we're going that way anyways.
And that's and some of that is a framework for something that could get done. But again, you're asking people that are beyond power hungry to give up control. Why would the SEC and the Big Ten right now that do whatever the hell they want? Why would they ever give up any sort of control? I mean, it makes no sense. We talked about this a little bit. The only way that anything like this ever comes about is simply if the lawsuits bring the NCAA to its knees.
And that's just it. I think that there are other, I think, good ideas in here, but again, we've said this on this show many times. Can you get stuff through the courts? Can you make it through all the legal barriers? Because there's another one. They want to address transfers here. And I think we've talked about how all the transfers and the rampant transferring hasn't been great for the sport. A lot of the players, they're not more productive in the next place that they go. We're just seeing kind of the crumbling or erosion of a handful of, or not a handful, but a lot of backups and role players and things like that. In this scenario, they want the teams to have 85 roster spots, but only a maximum of 70 scholarship slots. 50 of those would have to go to players who were recruited directly by the program out of high school, and then 20 could be transfers. So you can't build a roster off of transfers.
Again, why? Why would any of the power brokers in college football ever agree to any of this? I mean, I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to
They're
say
trying to put guardrails in for something that has gone off the rails, I think.
But again, why would you're
The
basically
toothpaste doesn't go back in the tube.
No. So why don't I go to the rich people that live in Camas and be like, hey, I'd like to be rich and for you to be less rich. So if we could do this thing where you could give up a lot of what you have and then I would get more and then therefore we'd be more even. Does anyone think that works at all when you float that out in areas like, I don't know, the South or the Midwest or the Rust Belt where college football is really popular? That doesn't really seem to jive real well.
Well, we saw it not jive well today. I mean, Jonathan asked for this with your car.
Yes.
It's the exact same thing. You are the Ohio State of the Portland metro area.
And he is
car
Rutgers,
community.
and he just wants a little joy and a free ride.
That's Oregon State, and you're Ohio State, and you're kicking Oregon State to the curb.
And you'd have to also, I mean, the real challenge of this to me is how you get this thing collectively bargained. Because, in leagues, right, it's simple. You have 30 to 32 teams. You have one commissioner. You have the 32 owners. And we all get together at a table and, hey, here's our money. And this 50% for you, 51 or 49% for you, 51% for me, right? It's fairly simple, right? And there's rules in place that get voted on by, the competition committee. And that goes to, at any given point, you have 32 people, right, that are making decisions. You're dealing now with, you're asking for 80 teams to come together with 85 athletes on that team, 100 when you deal with walk-ons. And you're asking university presidents that don't know squat about any of this.
Yeah, this is never getting done, is it?
And you're asking them all to come together and put some sort of cohesive thing that works for LSU and Alabama and Ohio State and Michigan and Oregon and Washington and USC, but also works for Rutgers and Washington State,
Kansas
and
State.
Kansas. It's like there's a little Pollyanna in this.
Yeah, it is. It's pie in the sky. It's optimistic. It's wishful. A lot of it. What I wrestle with is what does progress look like for college football? Because if you can't get some of these wholesale changes done because they're unrealistic, because no one's going to agree to them, what are the things that you can get done?
Well, again, this is somewhat of a moot point until the lawsuits work their way through court.
Yeah.
If the NCAA and the universities are found liable for damages, like there's a couple lawsuits right now that are suing for basically back NIL pay, right?
Okay.
And going back a couple years, and some people are saying that those damages could be to the tune of like $4 billion. Like if that happens, all bets are off.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you could see just athletic budgets and universities across the board just gone.
Yeah.
You're going to see schools that are going to look at this and be like, "What? Oh, yeah, I'm not paying that, so we're done. We're out." So like that, and even when you did that, there are still going to be schools, the big boys, that are going to be willing to pay, and they're still going to be the ones driving the bus. Because in order for something like this to happen, you would have to get all of these universities and all of these athletic programs and presidents to agree that one person, or at least a committee of let's say 5 to 10 people, have everyone's best interest, and then somehow get all of those athletes and all of those teams and all those conference to get one labor board guy, or at least, the 5 or 6 maybe that represent each conference to come together. I mean, it's such a monumental task to even think about what that looks like.
It's all way easier in theory than it is in execution.
Yes.
Period.
The easiest way that this happens is simply the lawsuits just bomb the universities out of business, and it gets raised to the ground, and then you're forced to raise everything up. The other one that you could have is some sort of settlement, and that's the one that I've heard is that could you get enough universities to get together that settle this case? It says, hey, we're all going to pony up X amount of dollars, and if you pony up X amount of dollars, you get to play in the next realm.
Okay.
It's a pay-to-play thing. We're settling this thing for, let's say, $1 billion, right? Who's in for $40 million? If you're in for $50 million, cool. You get to play, and we're going to pay this thing off, and even then, you're still going to have to come up with some sort of congressional ruling to either get around antitrust laws or, again, collectively bargain. it's almost an impossibility to see what the future looks like, other than eventually there'll be some form of governing body and some form of collective bargain revenue sharing. There has to be some form of that. What that looks like, I still think a lot of universities are holding out hopes that they can still keep a form of the NCAA around, because remember, the NCAA, you can say, doesn't make sense for college football, but without the NCAA, there's no basketball tournament, there's no baseball tournament, there's no volleyball tournament, there's none of that. And if you don't fund the NCAA through football or basketball, there's no money to put any of those things on.
Yep.
So ideally, if you're asking me what would be the best for college sports, and I'm saying somewhat status quo, someone in the federal government to give them antitrust protection with some form of revenue sharing, where a big pool goes in from all the different conferences. And if you're in that conference, you get a different split depending on conference. But and then if you get antitrust protection, then you could sign contracts where NIL deals or transfer deals would be enforceable. You could actually sign a contract with a school and saying, hey, I'm signing to a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal or a 3-year deal. And that would solve the transfer problem, right? Because you could actually sign a kid to a legally binding contract. And then you could still hold some form of amateurism. But that can't happen unless college sports gets antitrust protection and they stop getting their ass handed to them in court. So
it's a long road ahead, is what you're saying.
Yeah, none of this is going to be solved in a year. None of this is going to be solved in 2 years, because even if these cases get settled, or not get settled, but like there's a judgment involved, there's going to be appeals, and it's just, I know no one wants to hear it. I know Rob gets real pissed, but you're probably looking at 5 to 10 years of just slugging this out, and then begrudgingly somewhere down the road being forced into a corner that makes sense. But if you listen, go find Charlie Baker, who's the president of the NCAA. If you listen to him speak, he actually, I think, has a pretty good take on this whole thing and is trying to move this in the right direction. It's just, it was so botched before, and there's so many lawsuits that they're facing, and they lose every single time in court, that it's really neutered them to where until the legal issues get settled, the NCAA can do nothing.
All right, we are way over, but with good reason. Coming up next, bottom of the hour, the NBA playoffs get started, how the Knicks pitch to LeBron, and the hot take from the national networks that has Sook steaming. That's next on The Fan. said that you heard one hot take circulating today that you could not believe.
There were
a suggestion of tanking in a playoff play-in?
This is how stupid the coverage of the NBA is. I've talked about it, and this was JJ Redick's whole point why he's trying to launch that X's and O's basketball podcast with LeBron James. Yeah, the Red Wings are already losing. I just
I'm not laughing at you.
I can't. Really? You can't.
Only 12
you
minutes
can't
in.
beat the Montreal. I hate that team. And I hate the coverage of the NBA because his whole point was the takes in the NBA are so ridiculous and so drama high school BS laden. I heard from 3 national shows today, 1 on TV, 2 on the radio, that all had a debate. And I thought Tim Legler, by the way, I thought he was
going to hurt somebody.
I thought he was going to hurt someone. Like you could almost see him just melting and being like, "Are we really going to do this?" The idea was that the Lakers.
I occasionally get this from you in Stockwatch. Occasionally, when you're like, "No, what?
What?
No."
There was the debate. Could or should the Lakers tank tonight, lose to the Pelicans, who, by the way, they've played really well against this year. They're a terrible matchup for the Pelicans, right? By the way, if they win that game, they're in. Like, they're in the playoffs.
Yep.
If they beat New Orleans.
Yep.
And they hammer New Orleans. Bad matchup
if
for
you
the
win,
Pelicans.
if you win, you get the 7 seed and you play the Nuggets.
So the idea was, should or could the Lakers throw the game against New Orleans on purpose, just lay down, and then force a 1-game do-or-die playoff against the Sacramento Kings, who I believe have beat you 5 times in a row, and Golden State that I think has won 3 of 4, including the last time where they just alley-whooped your ass.
Boat raced them.
Boat raced them. To set up a 1-game playoff that if somehow you lose against 2 teams that have kicked your ass this year, you're done. You are out. Also that you can play the Oklahoma City Thunder and not the Denver Nuggets. That was a real debate that was had on 3 national shows.
It is a mini 4-team double elimination tournament in which the suggestion was lose your first game on purpose.
Lose your first game. Lose your first game on purpose. That's how stupid some of the NBA coverage is. Like, just the idea that and that I constantly hear from every one of these dumbasses how dangerous the Lakers are. Like, and by the way, in the same segment that they debated this, at the end of it, I hand to God, they were like, well, if there's one team that can give the Denver Nuggets problems, it's probably the Lakers. They went toe-to-toe with them last year. No, they didn't. They got their ass handed to them in the playoffs. And if they can handle the Denver Nuggets, and you think that that's a team that can give them problems, why on God's green earth would you tank and put yourself in an elimination to avoid the Denver Nuggets? I swear, it's so stupid. It's unbelievable.
It's detached from reality. No team is thinking that.
What they're doing is they are looking at the regular season matchups and going, well, the Lakers have performed the best against OKC, so that must be what they'd want to do. It's really, they didn't have anything to talk about in
but how
the
is there
B
nothing
segment.
to talk about?
That's what they're doing. They're trying to
know.
find something that no one else is talking about. The problem is that they all think that they're really smart, but really they found the same talking
Wouldn't it be
point.
awesome if the Lakers just lost a game and then put themselves in a do-or-die situation against 2 teams that just have kicked your ass? Cool. Yeah, great idea. Thanks, Stephen A. Jeebus, people. And then we wonder why people get bored with the NBA. That's the debate you're having? The playoffs start tonight. The NBA playoffs start tonight. And that was a debate that was had over multiple platforms. I wish you could go and look it up. Go just find, I'm not allowed to be critical of one of the shows. Just go listen and find Tim Legler and see his face when it's brought up. And Tim Legler just, what? And then he couldn't just rip someone a new one. So he had to be like, well, as a competitor, you wouldn't. That just you wouldn't.
You wouldn't do that.
You wouldn't do it. He just wanted to be like you wanted to pull the Happy Gilmore. That was the most idiotic thing I've ever heard. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
We will get to LeBron and the Knicks, the pitch the Knicks made to him in 2010 a little bit later. We've got to get to In the News coming up. Sunset News, a public school bus ride gone wrong, and Spirit, the mountain robot dog. That's all coming up on The Fan. It is Tuesday, April 16th. It is time for In the News. I'm your stand-in newsman. Your regular newsman will be back on Thursday. Let's see. Today, Sook, is National Wear Your Pajamas to Work Day.
Don't do that.
No, but you could.
Stop wearing your pajamas out in public, by the way. Don't do that.
Especially the gym. It's dumb.
Yeah, it's weird.
Wait, who's wearing their PJs to the gym?
Lots of
It's a big thing
is it
with
like flannel pants or something?
Yeah.
it's my generation.
Why?
As a leader of my generation, I should not allow it, but it's my people. I'm
Do
sorry.
something about it then, man.
I try not to do too many like old men, young, like young people are doing their own thing, but at some point you're going to look back and be like, my God, why? Like, you're not in bed. There's better pants. There's
There
athleisure
just are.
pants. There's joggers. We've come a long way. Don't wear pajama pants.
Also, who wears pajama pants to bed? Everyone just wears shorts or underwear or nothing. No one wears pajama pants. They're
Yeah,
fake
we
news.
don't live in Minnesota. That's yeah.
When I see you out and about wearing pajama pants, I often do them.
I think you're a loser.
It is also National Eggs Benedict Day. You a Benedict man?
I don't mind it. Now, unfortunately, I never get it because there's just other things on the breakfast menu. The Eggs Benedict is like 8th down my list of things that I would order at a breakfast restaurant. The only way I would get it is if, like, you go to a place. There was a place in New Orleans that we were at a while back, and it was like, that was like that you need to have.
Was that the Duck Hash Benedict? I think
Yes.
I've had that one.
Yeah, where they're like they're telling you like this.
Yeah.
And so when that's the only way. Other than that, there's better options, but it's fine.
I think of a Benedict. I think it's a breakfast dish that if it's hard to do well because the eggs got to be perfect and the hollandaise has to be good.
Yeah.
And so restaurants that try it that aren't great at it, that's a big bummer when you get one of those. So if it's going to be good, I'd put it towards the very top of my list of things I'm going to order, but often it's not. So you got to pick your spots a little bit. Also,
breakfast might be my most competitive meal of the day. Like
as far as pitting dishes against each other?
Yeah, it's dude, it's vicious. Like
What's that Thunderdome looking like?
Dude, it is a battle royale. I mean, you got everything from you got a one-seater like in a chicken fried steak if you feel like just being a gluttonous piece of crap.
I can't do that.
You got-
I don't not like the way it tastes, but man, I cannot do that for breakfast.
Of course, we're gonna get some crispy hash in there. I got
Okay.
omelets happening. I got scrambles. We haven't even started talking about delicious French toast. That big like brioche French toast. There's so many good things happening there. I got meat choices. I got biscuits and gravy. Again, you throw in an Eggs Benedict. Someone will throw a breakfast Sammy at me.
Waffles,
Yep.
I mean,
pancakes.
it
Yep.
really is. It's like a WWE Royal Rumble. I don't know who's winning that thing.
Yeah, you can do a nice scramble or a skillet.
Yes.
Yeah. It is also, and I know you'll appreciate this, Day of the Mushroom, a mushroom celebration day.
What kind of mushrooms are we talking?
I think all kinds of fungi, both the magic and the nutritious.
I don't like the nutritious kind.
I love the
If I-
nutritious kind.
If I'm consuming mushrooms, it's not for my cholesterol or health or whatever. No, it's doing it for other things. That's when I'm at Disney World by myself.
True story. The only time I have ever done mushrooms, I was in a taxi or an Uber home in San Francisco's North Beach, and there was a 4-alarm fire across the street from my house. That was the wrong time to be tripping.
Yeah, that was
Like, whole building up in flames, me looking out the window thinking I'm coming home to this. Like, what?
yeah, that
Not
was when
great.
I had to run out of the Muppets 3D movie.
Got too much for you, did it?
Yeah, I did. There was a group of individuals that saw a grown man that looks like me in an arm sling stand up and run out of the Muppets 3D experience. Couldn't handle it. And then once I was in my backyard and it was late and I was sitting around my fire pit when I realized after an hour or two I hadn't actually lit the fire and it was freezing cold. And it's a process. I realized, it's like, why am I so cold? Then I went through this existential crisis of why can't the fire burn me? And it was the whole thing. And then I realized I was sitting in front of an empty fire pit. So
Go Mushroom Day.
working through some things. It happens.
How do we feel about sunsets?
Love good sunsets.
Well, I'm here to tell you that from this week on until August, the sun will set after 8 p.m. in the Portland metro area from
Love
now
it.
until the end of the summer.
A little twilight golf, a little
Yep.
late night backyard barbecue.
Yep.
God, those long summer evenings, freaking fantastic. It's this. Say what you will about Portland from December, November, December, but like this next 4 to 5 months, one of the best places in the world.
Totally agree. And then I have an interesting story here from Portland Public Schools. A substitute bus driver
Not me.
accidentally dropped off 2 special needs kids 7 miles from where they were supposed to be dropped off from home.
Whoa.
So they were supposed to be dropped off in the Pearl District. They got dropped off at Northeast 92nd and Gleason.
That's not good. Like, what,
No.
Can I ask the question? Look, I don't know how. Like, there's varying degrees of special needs, but I'm assuming that with special needs kids, having been a special needs camp counselor, thank you very much, for one glorious summer. I'm assuming that you can't just let those children off on a corner and be like, good luck.
Well, that is essentially what the substitute bus driver did.
So
But students Ruby and Lucy Day were ultimately very resourceful, and they figured things out. It says neither one of them had cell phones, so they walked 10 blocks to the Burgerville on 82nd Avenue and asked a staff there for directions to the TriMet bus. And then their mother, Emily, said that those daughters knew how to take the TriMet and the MAX train, and they were able to then eventually catch a streetcar home. So,
all right, so maybe we were like on the spectrum somewhere.
Sure.
And, like it was autism. It was, because special needs can be a lot of different things. Kudos to those kids. And by the way, that bus driver, F you, man.
it says the 2 live less than a mile from Lincoln High School, and then they got dropped off like way. So
did the kids not raise a hand and be like, no? And the bus driver's like, I don't care?
I'm not sure if they were just into their routine and they just were like, this is where I'm supposed to be and this is my bus and it's my number, and so they didn't ask questions. That's unclear, but their mother was obviously very concerned, but proud of the daughters for figuring it out.
I would be livid.
Yeah.
Livid at said bus driver. And just because something didn't happen doesn't mean that something couldn't.
That's what she says. She says, quote, "It makes me feel very scared. It makes me worry that something could have happened to them that was a lot worse than
I'm
that."
glad that the kids are resourceful, and go those kids. That's badass. They're out there getting stuff done. And maybe it was a grand adventure for them too.
You never know.
Yeah.
Just like you and the Muppet movie.
Yeah, don't do that. Well, at the end of it, they have the big giant fluffy he's like the Snuffleupagus guy that's in the original Muppet movie that's running Kermit around.
Yeah, I know the guy you're talking about. I never remember his name, but I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, well, in the Muppet movie, at the end of it, he jumps through the screen, like at the movie, and then he's like, guys, I'm here. Well, in this one, like, it's the 3D movie, and then at the end, he actually jumps through the screen. They have the physical puppet, and it was no good. It went from being a 3D experience to no, it was out. I was
scared by a puppet, huh?
not just scared, terrified. I ran outside and I had to go sit down and take a time out. Called home and was like, we just need to take.
Don't watch Jeff Dunham, bro.
No, it was not. It wasn't good. It was a bad experience.
Would you like to meet Spirit the Robot Dog?
Yeah, let's go.
We'll do that next. You're listening to Primetime on 1080 The Fan.
This is the Fan's window into sports.
telling you, look up Sweetums. Like, when you're just sitting around tonight, look up Sweetums and then imagine that thing bursting through the screen.
Not the figure you want attacking you when you're on some psychedelics.
You can't do that. There needs to be a warning. Disney needs to put up a warning that's like, no, like, objects may appear in front of you. It's just, it's a bad beat.
Well, speaking of warnings, I know that you've both watched a little Black Mirror in your day, the Netflix show.
They're not still making those, are they?
Yeah, they just had some come out in like July. There was like 4 of them.
Oh yeah,
yeah, just a couple one-offs. Like not full seasons, I don't think. But there was a black and white episode some years ago with a robot dog, and robot dogs taking over. Did you guys happen to see that one?
I remember that. Yeah, without the head, there was like the weird Boston Electronic.
Yep.
Yeah, I forget. Is it like it's some technical company out of Boston?
Yeah, Boston Dynamics. I think is
Dynamics.
Is that what
that's
they're called?
What it is.
Yeah. So
and they're like headless robot dogs. They're terrifying.
Anyhow, well, if you are up traversing Mount Hood, you may see one of these dogs because Oregon State University engineers are part of a NASA-funded collaborative effort to help train Spirit, the robot dog, how to traverse difficult terrain that could eventually be used for robots going on the moon and Mars.
Oh, yeah,
So-
I see this thing. Again, it's terrifying, and eventually this thing will end up killing us all. Like, can they give the dog a head or make it look less menacing? Because the problem is they're doing these robot dogs. I see Spirit here, but it's a headless dog, so it just looks like a weird just this weird head that's been decapitated. Put a friendly little dog head on the front of it so that it makes it seem less terrifying.
They've come up with a creative acronym to name it the LASSIE Project, which is Legged Autonomous Surface Science in Analog Environments Project.
Again, put a little robot head that looks like Lassie on there, and I think we'd all be more rational about it.
Yeah, also maybe a kill switch that's really easy for us to all see. You know, just hit that button and we're done here.
Well, I mean, can't we all think about, like, because they're saying that this is for, like, Mars or whatever. I just feel like this one day you're going to be hiking on Mount Hood, and this thing's just going to come for you. Imagine, like, being out on a steep hill somewhere, and you just see this thing, like, mountain goating its way up to you. And it's making a beeline for you. It's terrifying.
It says that very little of the moon's surface has actually been explored, and so they're trying to offer different types of terrain, snow, water, all the types of stuff that Mount Hood would provide. And it says the team foresees Spirit working with other robots, like a wheeled rover that can navigate long distances, or a hexapedal robot that has even better mobility. So it's a robot that'll team up with robots, even scarier.
I'm putting an idea out there. You can't call something a dog that's headless. Like, you can't.
Well, you call the headless horseman a horseman.
And technically they're calling it a robot, a dog-like robot.
See, dog-like. Can we just call it a four-legged robot?
Yeah.
I don't like.
Because that's what it is. It's not a dog.
Yeah, we're throwing out a dog. Like, I couldn't be like, hey, I bought you a dog, and then show up
Give
with
you a robot?
Give you a decapitated, like, if I showed up with a dog that was missing a head and be like, hey, I got you a dog. No, I didn't. That's not what that is.
Sounds like you murdered a dog.
So they're also taking these robots down to the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, as well as White Sands National Park in New Mexico. Other universities involved include USC, Texas A&M, and Penn.
Yeah, this has a real Predator sort of vibe to it, where one day they're going to come for you. Those things are going to be unleashed upon you.
And that's exactly what Black Mirror was trying to tell us. So I'm with you. Well, as much as I would like to explore outer space, I don't want to teach these things too much.
Remember, was it Minority Report with Tom Cruise? They had the spiders. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about those.
Yeah, the little robot spiders that came crawling after you. Robot animals.
That think for themselves? No. It's got to be remote controlled.
I know this is weird, but like the Terminator may be scary, but the robot animal way scarier. Like, if I had to face like a humanoid robot coming at me, or like a robot lion, I'm fighting the human, or the robot humanoid thing. I don't. There's something about it. Next thing you know, we just do robot dinosaurs. You got a robot like T-Rex coming at you, a robot velociraptor. I don't like it. It's bad news.
And then finally, technically a follow-up story here. Do you remember when the Beaverton mayor got hit with child porn charges?
I do remember that.
Well, Denny Doyle has violated his probation, and so he's going back to jail.
Yeah. You would think it's not that hard
to not do that stuff anymore?
Your child porn probation? but
Arrested by the U.S. Marshal Service and booked on Monday afternoon. So it doesn't say what old Denny was up to, but he was sentenced in early 2023 to 6 months in federal prison and then given 5 years probation on supervised release. But he's messed that up somehow.
yeah.
Stop being a creep, man.
By the way, only 6 months for child porn?
Yeah,
I always thought child porn was like a serious, like that you went away for some time.
I don't know the details of like having it versus like procuring it versus. I think there are. It's all horrible. I think, like we've talked about with assaults and things like that, there are layers to them and different varying degrees. It's all disgusting. It's all not good. But apparently, whatever he did was good enough for just 6 months in prison. So.
Yeah,
Probably going back for more now, though.
I was reading here, and I think they're trying to claim that he's not allowed to use a computer, and that he was using a computer, but he's claiming he was using it for non-porn reasons. He was saying he was like trying to pay bills or something. But yeah, I guess when you get hit with the child porn, they
take that pretty serious.
Yeah, they don't allow you to use. You're not allowed to get on the interwebs. I think that's part of the condition. Is you're like a 5-year-old kid. You've lost your internet privileges.
Yeah, he probably doesn't need to get them back really anytime soon. And I think most of those bills that you need to pay, you can call an 800 number and punch that in on your touchtone keypad. That is your In the News for Tuesday, April 16th. Coming up next, the hot 5 at 5. We'll also get to the pitch to LeBron James from the New York Knicks. You have to hear about the details to believe them. And additionally, some baseball musings, some strange things going on in the American League, specifically in the AL West. We'll get to all that coming up. You're listening to Primetime here on 1080 The Fan. It is in full swing. The Pelicans up 31-26 on the Lakers early. Some stars doing some things. Zion already with 10 points. D'Angelo Russell with 13. Coming up this hour, a little more NBA playoff talk. Maybe no Giannis for the Bucks. We're not sure how long. What could that mean? And could tonight be the end of the Splash Brothers? That didn't really occur to me until today because one Klay Thompson is going to be a free agent at the end of the season.
Is he a free agent?
And
if he comes back, that's going to be on a very team-friendly deal.
And we'll get into it. He's the kind of guy I think that is not always going to be chasing the bag and maybe content to do it in one uniform. But
or does he want to stick around or not stick around but go somewhere that could actually maybe try to win another title somewhere?
That's certainly a possibility as well. And have some musings around Major League Baseball, nepotism alive and well in one specific job market, as well as the curious case of Esty Ruiz. Protest gone wrong, banging up in AAA and now up in the majors once again, and a freak injury. But all of that will have to come your way after the Hot 5 at 5.
Hot topics, hot opinions.
Oh, Charlie, I'm hot today.
And hot air. It's time for the Hot 5 at 5.
That's hot.
The Hot 5 at 5 on Primetime with Isaac and Sue.
No, I mean it. That's very hot.
The Hot 5 at 5 with Isaac and Sue. Brought to you on The Fan by Victor Rico's Mexican Food, the most popular burrito spot in Oregon. Online at victorricos.com. Number five.
Number 5, I'm not sure why we thought this was really going to have some legs, but Rory McIlroy shoots down the rumors that he's headed to LIV for $850 million. Now, that would be quite the bag, but he's banged the drum harder than anybody that LIV is terrible for golf and ruining the game.
Look,
so
I understand that you at that point, like you can't do it because you've been so vocal about it.
But boy. Do you think there's a little part of him wishes he could?
You haven't won a major in 10 years. Your career's not what it once was. $850 million tax-free dollars? I don't know if they'd offer him $850 million.
Guys, I was really wrong about this tour. It is for the best.
You know what? If he decided to do that and he just came out and was like, it's $850 million.
I'm selling out.
I would respect him so much. Be like, yes, I understand. You're all gonna think I'm, this and that, and wishy-washy, and you can't trust. It's $850 million. There's nothing I wouldn't do for $850 million. Tax-free, $850 million.
Number 4.
And maybe a surprise to no one, but the University of Michigan hit with recruiting violations. We knew that there was going to be some sort of penalty, probably after Jim Harbaugh left, and they got that. They're going to do 3 years of probation. They're going to pay a fine. They face recruiting restrictions, and 5 current or former employees are getting a year show cause. So no more coaching or participating for you for the time being.
Yeah, that's actually a fairly significant thing in terms of the NCAA because they have no real teeth. And by the way, this may be the last of their investigations because remember, they said at this point, like with the NIL stuff, nothing they can do. Although this isn't really, it's kind of a bit of a gray area, but I mean, I guess kudos for them trying to punish somebody.
It always just feels like it's too little, too late, and maybe this time not too little, just too late. It's not. By the time it takes me to sort through everything, we're so far past those events that it kind of doesn't matter anymore, and it feels inconsequential.
Well, like you said, okay, you gave a show cause to a coach that isn't there anymore. Okay.
How about a little back heel pass over to you, the resident Thorns fan here. Thorns looking for a new head coach.
Yeah.
Starting a global search as they have reassigned Mike Norris, their head coach, and named Rob Gale, their interim head coach. Still looking for their first win on the season, and saying, like I said, it's going to be a global search for their new head coach.
As opposed to a non-global search?
Yeah, like we're not just going to, look for other MLS assistants. They're going to go international search committee.
Well, I mean, I may love going to the Thorns games. I can tell you that I have zero input, and I mean zero input on who their next coach should be.
I expect a list of names by showtime tomorrow.
How about this? Someone that likes running the goals play.
Ooh! If they could get one of those, I think that would be good.
How about this? The Thorns are one of the best teams in the league year to year. 0-3-1, not acceptable. They got a game coming up this Saturday.
A little bit of a quick hook, only 10-7-8 in his second season.
Oh, well, be better.
All right.
I tell you, that's an Asachi sort of thing. Get his ass out of there. Come on. Let's go.
Number 2, some significant transfer portal news. When I heard today that Arizona big man Umar Ballo was going to Indiana, or University of Indiana, the Hoosiers, my first question was, how much?
Yeah.
And $1.2 million. Jeff Goodman saying that was the asking price.
That's a tasty little number for him.
So the big man from Arizona going to Bloomington. It's kind of funny because this just has to be all about the bag, right? I don't feel like Indiana's particularly close to something big.
Well, I mean, again, if I don't know what Arizona was offering, but if Arizona's offering you $400,000 and Indiana's offering you 1.2, who knows how all these things work and what goes into it. Maybe he didn't get along with the coach. Maybe he doesn't like the heat. But this is just the nature of the beast. Maybe he feels there's a bigger role waiting for him in Indiana. Indiana certainly has the money and resources and facilities.
Got to imagine Indiana's thinking, well, maybe he can be our Zach Edey.
Yeah, he was the number 1 player in the portal. It's
Yes,
it's a nice get for Indiana.
Yep. Number 1, the playoff play-in starting tonight. The first game already underway. Pelicans, Lakers, the winner getting the 7 seed of this one. Pelicans up early, end of the first quarter, 34-26. Zion Williamson leading the way with 10 points. CJ has 3. And then we have a loser goes home game tonight between the Warriors and the Kings, Northern California rivals. And I was just realizing today could be the last of the Splash Brothers if the Warriors go home.
Yeah, right, because Clay may not re-sign there, or they may not be interested in re-signing him.
Yeah, I'll look into the details in the break. It's either an option or an outright free agent. But yeah, either way, this could be the end of that.
Well, I mean, if this is the end of it, I mean, appreciate the run for what it was. And by the way, I mean, it's the end of it anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, Golden State is not a contender. It looked a couple years ago that Golden State was going to be able to make the transition. You had the young guys with Poole and Kuminga and
they thought Wiseman was going to turn out, and that didn't happen.
So you had this thing where they went down at a couple injuries, and then they had all this young talent, and it just didn't work out. Right? Wiseman obviously is not there. Jordan Poole not there, but they did win another title.
Yep.
For all the bagging on them, they did win a title kind of on the back end of that.
Yeah.
And
I think that's the one that people weren't really expecting, and that's the one you'll hang your hat on.
You win 4 championships. That's
enough.
It's an amazing run. Like, I know this weird thing about like Golden State went out with they won 4 titles. Like, how could anyone be critical of that? And honestly, they won 4 titles, and for me at least, made the NBA fun to watch.
Yeah.
That was when they were cooking, that is as fun a basketball team as I can remember ever seen. That was anyone that's critical of the style of play that's played in the NBA, watch those peak Golden State teams, because their ball movement and the small ball lineup, I thought that was great.
And then one more note, not likely to be available, at least for game 1, Giannis Antetokounmpo against the Pacers. Don't know what that means for the series. He obviously had the calf injury that looked like it could be Achilles adjacent. Weren't really sure.
Well,
and not too good.
There's a lot of rumblings that he may not go in this thing. Like, and it's not just a one game. Because if you're Milwaukee and you are at all concerned that the Kevin Durant thing, the calf could lead to the Achilles.
And this was that exact situation. We're not sure. It's a calf. I think he'll be okay in the finals. They play him. Boom, it's gone.
You're not playing well. You're not a real contender right now. The first year was a little rough. You've got to make a decision, I think, after next year, about Dame. Dude, if you have to, shut him down, get another year, find your real head coach, or another year under Doc Rivers. Try to bring it back next year and give it a run, because look, you're not winning an NBA title with this version. You're just not.
No, you wouldn't think so. All right, coming up next, need to get to a little bit of LeBron news. It was 14 years ago that everybody in the league had a shot at winning him over when he was leaving Cleveland. Maybe the basketball mecca had a chance until they showed him a 10-minute video featuring Tony Soprano. That's coming up next on The Fan.
Yeah.
their own way seems to be hilarious to me. And the Knicks are certainly one of those franchises. The way they have mishandled their relationships with some of their all-time legends, the way that just James Dolan has generally conducted some sorts of business. They've had a hard time remaining competitive really in a long time. I think their last title was in the 70s. And it's been a rough go. Finally, they're a 2 seed this year, and got a lot of nice pieces despite having a handful of injuries.
Yeah, I mean, if this is a healthy team and you have Julius Randle to go with OG and Brunson, who's probably going to be a top 5 MVP guy, you got something cooking.
By the way, I do want to mention, did you see the Dante DiVincenzo nugget?
No.
Okay, so he was up for Most Improved Player of the Year.
Okay.
He played in 81 of 82 games this year. Was not eligible.
How's that?
The rule states you have to play a minimum of 65 games and average 20 minutes a game. He needed 9 more minutes to qualify.
Really?
And he would have won first place, but they said, nope, not going to be him because he didn't qualify.
Seems an odd.
Now, I know they put a lot of those, I think, minimum standards in place for awards for like MVP and stuff like that, but Most Improved isn't necessarily going to be a guy that's a starter for you, and it feels like if you play more than 65 games, you should get some leniency on the minutes. But he goes for 81 games and just a hair under 20 minutes a game and not eligible for the award.
I guess rules are rules, right? I suppose.
I guess.
Oh, sorry, man.
Well, the Knicks were one of many teams that wanted to try and pry LeBron James out of Cleveland in 2010. This was when he infamously took his talents to South Beach instead. But today we learned on Pablo Torre's show that LeBron was pitched by the Knicks with a 10-minute-long video that included James Gandolfini and Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Let's hear what we've got from that.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Tony, I'm so glad we moved to New York. Life is so much better now.
Yeah. Life's good here, Carl. Even if we are in the witness protection program.
Now, we just gotta find a place for your friend LeBron to live. What's he like?
Well, he's a modern guy, but he respects tradition.
Well, here's something classy on the east side.
Was it big enough? It's going to be entertaining a lot of people in New York.
It's very expensive.
Oh, that's not going to be a problem. You got to find something magnificent. Something there's nothing in the world like it, one of a kind, like he is.
Well, here's a place. It says it gets really loud there. Take a look.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's going to be perfect for him.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is...
So that's Pablo Torre and Rob Perez and Jason Concepcion all laughing at this. By the way,
I mean, it's pretty silly.
This
but...
is 2 years after The Sopranos ended. So you're really, and so apparently though, they really got Edie Falco and James Gandolfini. Gandolfini's sporting a huge beard that he never had when he was Soprano. Yeah. Apparently it was shot in his actual apartment, which LeBron was reportedly hyped about. But needless to say, this did not work.
Well, I mean, I suppose it's like a college recruiting thing, right? Like that's the sort of like cheesy thing that they do for college recruits. So why not do it for LeBron? If you don't think LeBron's is above like someone kissing his ass and sucking up to him,
he certainly is. But wouldn't you? I feel like if you play that and who knows what the other 8 minutes look like or whatever. But I guess it's. I think the Trump line in there was everybody who's somebody's in New York. And so they're trying to sell him on that. Internet pointing out how ironic that was after LeBron has since gone on Twitter and called Trump a bum and Trump uninvited him to the White House.
I'm trying to think of, I don't know, like if someone was trying to woo me, if you got if you got the cast of The Big Lebowski back together, look, I don't know if it sways me, but I'll tell you what, I think it was awesome. If you got Walter and the dude back together and they did some sort of pitch about rolling with me, yeah, you might get my attention.
And I think that's true, but is there any indication that LeBron is a Sopranos guy?
Yeah, I guess that's the question. Is he a Sopranos guy, or were you just like, well...
And just because that's cool to like the New York people, like, is it cool to the just a kid from Akron?
Wasn't Tony in New Jersey, though?
He was in New Jersey,
Yeah,
and so what they were saying is 2 years later, witness protection, because remember, the whole finale thing, we're not sure what happened. And they're in New York on witness protection. That's why he has a beard.
Wasn't everyone into The Sopranos back then, though?
It was. I mean, it was a cultural phenomenon. I don't know that everybody was into it, but certainly, like when the finale hit, that was a really big deal.
Did they think LeBron was really into it because he carries around the Godfather book and never reads it?
That was the tie-in I was wondering about. Yeah, we often see LeBron walking into or off of the team bus into the locker room carrying the literary copy of The Godfather, and he's usually on page 1 or 2.
There's no way, by the way, 0 chance that he's read The Godfather. It's just not. He's not going to a game and being like, let me bring my well-read copy of The Godfather. Nice try, LeBron. Maybe that's, either that or I don't know what else you're thinking of. You would think that a place like New York, you could pitch a lot of things, but is LeBron not aware of what New York has to offer?
I don't know.
I would have gone the hookers and blow route. I would have brought out like Dwight Gooden and Darryl Strawberry and been like, hey,
so granted,
you want to know about being an athlete in New York? Let me talk to you about 1986.
We forget that LeBron would have been like 22 or 23 then. Because this is like, he'd been with the Cavs for 4 or 5 years. Like he'd been with them from 07 to 05.
03.
There's no way he was
that. Hold on. I'm wrong about that.
He was 03,
so he was
7 years in the
25.
NBA.
He would have been 25.
He's my age.
Yeah.
He'd be my age right now. Tony Soprano would have worked on me, just saying.
At age 25? Okay.
25?
Yeah, well, I watched at age 2 summers ago, I went back and watched The Sopranos. That show was awesome.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well,
but I think it would have been better if instead of Edie Falco, you have like Paulie Walnuts.
I mean, shoot, you could have Meadow Soprano, you could have Adriana.
You can't have people that are dead, though.
That's true.
Well, this is 2010. Paulie Walnuts was alive.
No, this was after the...
No. Character was not, though.
Yeah, the character
Paulie Walnuts never died.
Didn't he get his head run over at the end?
No, that's the New York boss. That's the silver-haired guy.
Oh, I thought Paulie did.
I thought
no,
Paulie
doesn't die. Paulie's like...
The lone man, like, on the run?
Yeah, it's ambiguous. No, you're thinking of the New York boss and then his right-hand man, Silvio. Silvio probably died.
I don't know about you,
maybe
but
it was Silvio that
you
I'm
give me
thinking of.
this many years after a show, boy, details just start. Like, if you could go back and watch The Sopranos, and I would be surprised by, like, half the things. Or you'd be like, oh, yeah, I remember that.
I like to go back and do a rewatch on shows. I actually tried to go back and start The Sopranos again, but I'm like, I don't know if I can do 60 episodes of this now when I know the main crux of it. Yeah. It was awesome one time through. I didn't think I needed to do it a second time.
I can't do entire series again. Like I can watch bits and pieces, but like I got a buddy of mine that's watching Vikings for the first time, and he's trying to talk to me about it, and I have to do and that's one of my favorite shows of all time, and I have to be like, wait, what? Which one was that? Oh, yeah, kind of. And he's like, hey, what was happening here? And I'm like, oh, God, I don't.
That's
I
like
don't
when
remember.
someone
like,
new
I
watching
don't know.
Game of Thrones asks you about like what was going on in Game of Thrones. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. The families were fighting, and then there were people crossing each other, and I don't know.
Yeah, I can't. Anyone that can remember details on a show that goes 6 or 7 years, God bless you, because that's not me. Well, apparently it didn't work, so good luck, New York. Although, like, New York hasn't had a relevant team in forever. This Knicks team, especially next year when Randall gets healthy, that Knicks team is going to be a problem for people.
Well, and it's funny too. We were talking earlier about the tanking and how it makes absolutely no sense in the play-in. There may have been a little tanking in the Eastern Conference right before this started because
100%.
People believe that the Bucks wanted to avoid the potential of playing either the Sixers or the Heat, which is who the Knicks are going to draw. And boy, after the Knicks scrapped for that 2 seed, I don't think that's the matchup you want.
Oh no,
we've
seen it in the regular season. Teams that are already in a guaranteed 7-game series, absolutely there's teams that can massage their record. You just don't do it in the
when it's a do or die.
When it's a do or die in the play-in.
Of course not.
The Lakers up now by 5 against New Orleans. So
they flipped that thing in a hurry. Then
they're not tanking.
LeBron is he's still doing it. The guy's amazing. It is. I mean, I haven't always appreciated from the taking my talents to South Beach to some of the ways that he's propped himself up, whatever. But every time I watch him like turn it on a playoff stage, I marvel again. He's still the best at it whenever he wants to be.
To me, it's always Jordan. I think Jordan's the better player.
And I would give Jordan.
I'm a Jordan guy, but if you want to look at totality, you look at Jordan at the end when he was done playing at whatever it was, 36, 37, whenever he retired, and it was fat. Not fat, but fatter.
Yeah, he was. I mean, for Jordan.
He was fat for Michael Jordan. And the Wizards thing and all that. And then you look at what LeBron's doing at, 39?
Yeah.
I've never, even Kareem, Kareem played that long, and at the end, Kareem was somewhat effective. But this is, from a longevity standpoint, this is Tom Brady, Barry Bonds. And you can debate whether LeBron's on some of the Barry Bonds stuff. I kind of think he is, but you never know.
Maybe even better than some of the Barry
Don't
Bonds
look
stuff.
behind the curtain.
Yeah, he trust me. LeBron is, he's doing stuff besides the
cream in the clear.
the cream in the clear and the
blood spinning, maybe
hair restoration stuff. But either way, whatever he's doing, I've never seen an athlete play this long at this level. Because even Brady, to an extent, quarterback, in today's NFL, you're not having to run around. Dude, that guy and what he's doing running up and down the floor in an NBA court, playing at both ends.
Well, he can still be physically the most dominant player out there, which is crazy.
In spurts.
And not consistently, but like in spots. When he picks his spots, he can still do it, and that's nuts.
Pretty ridiculous. Yes, never seen anything quite like it.
He's already got 9 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, about halfway to a triple-double with about 3 minutes to go in the second quarter. So we'll keep an eye on that one. The Warriors and Kings coming up in the loser goes home at 9:10, playing a little bit later. Coming up next, want to finally get to some baseball talk. The curious case of Esty Ruiz, some nepotism in the business, and Rocky's going to rock you. That's all coming up next. Here's Ortner with SportsCenter.
Sopranos were like, wait,
Wasn't it this?
What did
no,
this
no,
guy?
no. It was that.
Like they left it ambiguous, then it moved to Game of Thrones, and I'm like, outside of Ned getting his head chopped off, who the hell killed who in Game of Thrones? There's a lot of like. Buck
Well,
was
John
like,
killed Daenerys.
yeah, and then like there was the Red Wedding, but who was the Red Wedding between? It was between the Stark
The
guy.
Freys and the Starks.
Freys,
and
that's
they
who it
were
was.
the Freys. Remember,
They were like the weird forest people, right?
no, that was the weird guy
Well,
who
those-
kept marrying his daughters and then having more kids.
Yeah, Walder Frey. I think was
Yes,
his
and
name.
he had a bridge and they had to cross it. So then the Stark kid, the actor's name is Madden. He was supposed to marry one of the daughters. He then backs out to marry his like nurse handmaiden lady, and then he has to go back to the Freys. So then the Freys take money, and the
Will.
Boltons take over, and then the Boltons become. head of
Will
the-
actually
Jeez.
knowing what the hell's going
I
on.
am smart.
Yeah. Look, I'll
Boy.
give you credit for remembering. It's all just like vague details. I'm like, there was a Stark, there was a wedding, someone was pregnant, they stabbed him. I'm like, didn't Cersei die like in a big pile of rubble?
Yes,
Right?
holding on to her brother lover,
Yeah,
Jamie.
right?
Yes.
There's a little.
And it all got set off because she got caught with her lover brother Jamie, and
And he
they pushed Bran out the window.
and then he became the three-eyed raven.
Boy, and then we had Arya and the Ice King, and the whole thing. White Walkers, giants.
It's all it just blurs together in one big pile of, I don't know. Someone killed someone over something.
That's about
It
right.
was good until the final 12 episodes.
Well, the Oakland A's ownership slowly killing their fan base as they have announced all their the moves they want to make. They're supposed to be off to Las Vegas. They're still trying to secure the right funding, stadium, things like that. But this year's been an ugly one for them. The attendance has been way down. Opening night, their fans hold a rally outside of the stadium and don't actually come in. And one of the groups that's been particularly vocal is called Last Dive Bar in Oakland, or just Last Dive Bar. And they've been a group that's trying to get Oakland to put down roots and stay. And a lot of players have come to their events saying like, yeah, we're with you. We support you. And they have some of those like Live Strong looking wristband bracelets that just say Last Dive Bar. Well, Esty Ruiz and Brent Rooker were both wearing those earlier in the year, and Esty Ruiz got sent down to AAA despite at the time hitting 273 on a roster that's averaging 206.
He was clearly one of their best players and was sent down as punishment and spite, which is why this organization continues to be the worst in all of sports, and that includes the Coyotes.
So Esty Ruiz goes down to AAA for 11 games where he hits 326. 326 with 25 total bases. He's got an on-base percentage of 423 and an OPS over 1,000. So, of course, they call him back up. But did they start him last night? No. Of course not. But they put him in a spot when they need him, and he hits an absolute rocket.
Just moonshot.
107 miles per hour off the bat. StatCast says it would have been out in all 30 parks. And he gives the team a much-needed boost. And then even after the game, it was really odd. They asked the manager about him, and they're like, yeah, he's starting to come around. He's starting to swing it better. We're starting to see him work on a few things. And it's like, can we give this guy his flowers? He's absolutely tearing it up. And maybe just tell him don't wear the wristband and let that be that.
Right? Like, he was one of your three best players. You send him down, and at what point when you send him down, like, are you like, we just, like, they don't even care anymore because none of this stuff is defensible. It's like when the Orioles did that with their broadcast.
Yeah, they were
Their play-by-play guy.
Yeah, he was critical of either their recent player or road trip or something like that,
Yeah.
and they grounded him for a couple weeks.
It's just, there's just some things that you can't defend, and the A's are just such a pathetic organization. And I wish Major League Baseball would grow some balls and force a sell. The NHL's doing it. So the NHL is basically forcing a sell of the Arizona Coyotes. They're going to move to Salt Lake, and then they're actually going to say that if we expand again, that Arizona and the same owner will get another crack at this. But they are basically saying, no, you're going to sell it and get it the hell out of Arizona. And Major League Baseball should just force Fisher to sell, because at this point it is just, all they do is suck up league revenue with revenue sharing and produce nothing.
The thing is, I think the rest of the league wants a team in Vegas, and so they're like willing to deal with how poorly Fisher poorly Fisher runs everything, because it might mean them getting a team in Vegas.
Yeah, it's just,
But that doesn't mean it's what's good for the league.
We'll see if the Vegas thing actually, comes to fruition, and we'll see if and when it's in Vegas, if it's run any better. Because I'm not convinced that just because they're in Vegas that Fisher isn't going to continue to run this thing as a piggy bank and continue to be a laughing stock and spend no money. And if they do, shame on Major League Baseball for not doing something sooner. I mean, they forced the sale of the Dodgers.
Yep.
We've seen this.
Yeah, they did.
Where it's like, hey man, you financially you can't do this. And it's time to move on. But it's hard to get owners to vote another rich guy out of position because they're always afraid that they're going to come for them next. But I just wish that the owners would grow some balls and get him out, because how anyone can think that what the A's are doing and have done for the last 15 years isn't just a black eye on the game of baseball. I don't know. And again, they're just costing the league money because they take money and they don't put anything back.
No, and they don't really try to.
No,
it's sad. One of the things that is happening in Oakland today or early in this week is, I guess I want to ask you, is it something that's really cool or is it just lame nepotism rearing its head? Because the announcers for both teams in the series are father-son. You have Chip Carey and his son Chris Carey. Chip does the play-by-play for the Cardinals, who are visiting Oakland. Chris Carey, now his first season as the A's play-by-play man. Also, Chip Carey's father, Skip, and their grandfather also in. So it's a 4-generation MLB broadcaster thing, which I think is kind of cool. But then at the same time, you think about all the announcing in pro sports, and it feels like everybody is somebody's kid.
Well, I got to be careful with this. First off, I mean, you obviously have to be somewhat talented, right? If you can't do it just because your last name is Carey.
If you're going to start tripping over your words, they're not probably giving you the microphone.
No. So let's just say, let's get it out of the way, that none of these guys are bad, right? They're not bad at what they do. But we also need to be honest that there are a lot of people that can do that job.
Sure.
If you went around the league to all the different minor league teams and small markets, there are people doing the play-by-play for a single-A baseball team that, given the opportunity, would do a great job at the major league level.
Yep.
Right? There is a lot of people that are capable of doing that. The problem is it's really hard to climb that ladder.
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely is. So when your name is Carey or Collinsworth.
When you're the great-grandson of Harry freaking Carey.
And someone can be like, hey, my grandfather and my dad both know this guy. Your name gets you in the door and you get introduced. It's the Mike, and Golick Jr. thing. It gives you an opportunity, and then it's up for you to stay. But yes, it's absolutely silly to think that nepotism is not alive and well. and maybe in broadcasting, it's as bad as anywhere in sports, because it does feel like that if your father has a as a name, you can get one too.
I think about, obviously, Joe Buck had Jack Buck. You've got Noah Eagle and Ian Eagle. Yeah. You've got
and by the way, Buck and Eagle are both.
No, they're both great.
They're both great.
Kenny and Marv Albert.
Yep.
But would you like? This is where you start to go, huh? I'm looking at Chris Carey's resume and where his previous stops. He was broadcaster of the Cotuit Kettleers of the Cape Cod League.
Okay.
The Amarillo Sod Poodles in the Texas League, and the Arizona Fall League. That's it.
Yeah.
So he's been doing pro ball for a whole 3 years.
But then that's, whereas it might take someone 15 years to climb the ladder, it takes him 3. By the way, I looked it up. Just in Major League Sports alone, there's 40 plus legacy families in broadcast.
Not surprising.
So when you look at how many, like the number of those jobs, so if we're going to say like the 3 to 4 major sports, 30 to 32 teams, like there's not many of those jobs, and there's already 40 plus broadcasting families.
The other big one too is like, did you go to Syracuse, Northwestern, Temple?
That is a good one, yeah.
It
Syracuse
also depends
sure.
on like the colleges that you were at, where that can also help you get in.
I'm looking here. Even Calabro's got one. Kevin Calabro.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's got his David Calabro, who's been working out in Indianapolis. Of course, you got I'm just trying to think of ones that I didn't necessarily know.
Yeah, and there have to be so
many.
Well, like
the worst one is Jack Collinsworth.
They made up a job for him that didn't exist and wasn't needed.
Like it does not. Like he serves no purpose there other than Chris. I guarantee in contract negotiation was like, look, shave a little off mine and give it to my stupid kids so that I don't have to pay for his car insurance. Like Jack Collinsworth does nothing, and he is handed that job.
You know what I wonder, and I just remembered. Remember when Craig Sager's kid was doing it a little bit, and then when Craig, got sick and declined very quickly, then they like let his son almost take over for him, and a lot of other people, including Popovich, were like had his back, kind of uplifting him. That was sweet. I don't really remember what happened to him though. If he kept on that path,
I don't know whatever happened with that. But remember I'm looking at some other ones. Bob and Brian Greasy.
Okay,
Phil Simms, right? And Chris.
Yep.
And and Chris, they got the Hasselback brothers. And I guess that's not father son, but that's brothers. It helps. It certainly helps to have a just helps to have an in. And by the way, that goes for everything.
Of course.
There's not a place in life where
knowing someone doesn't help you a little bit.
Yes. How many companies, maybe one that we work for, how many companies the president is the son of the guy that founded the company?
It happens.
It happens.
Craig Sager II, according to his LinkedIn, he is the managing editor of Score Atlanta.
Okay. All right. So he's still in sports media. One more story that I wanted to get to before we turn the page. Colorado Rockies. Boy.
Yeah. What are the Colorado Rockies?
They cannot stay out of their own way. They looked like they were going to have a terrible roster going into the season. Their ownership hasn't been especially great. I know that fans have been upset with how they've run things, how they've let good players like Nolan Arenado leave town. And
for basically nothing, by the way.
Yeah, getting nothing in return.
Go back and look at that. That's one of those, like, what are we doing besides
it was basically like
cheap?
Well, it was almost, I don't want to say it was Ohtani-esque, but it was a little bit like, well, we don't really think that we can re-sign him, but we don't want to trade him because that would look bad, and so they just kind of let him walk.
Yeah.
And you're like, really?
Yeah.
But the Rockies last night couldn't stay out of their own way, literally. Needed a runner late in the game, and so who do they put on third base? Their number one ace pitcher, Kyle Freeland.
Although, to be fair to the Colorado Rockies, the pitching injuries we've talked about on this program. Pitchers can't stay healthy. They're getting hurt left and right, so how is this Colorado's fault?
Well, if he was throwing his splitter, you wouldn't necessarily blame the Rockies, but he was running the bases, and then in that moment, decided that he was going to make a mad dash for home where there was going to be a play at the plate. A collision occurred, and he broke his arm.
There is such a great photo of him. It's not great.
The overhead angle is tragic.
Yeah,
I mean, he is writhing around like
Yeah.
he's been sniped.
It is just his legs all bent akimbo, his like arms underneath him. He's screaming and yelling. You just lost your number one pitcher, not to a UCL injury, because you needed a pitch runner on third. By the way, there's no one else on your bench that can run? Is he that great of an athlete?
Clearly not. He broke his arm.
I've never seen this. I have never seen the number one starter for a team go into pitch run at third. I've never seen it.
I believe I've seen Tim Lincecum use as a pinch runner for the Giants when he was their ace.
Really?
Yeah, because he was like their most athletic pitcher on the bench. But
he was fast.
But it still doesn't mean you should do it. I mean, if especially in a game in April, like you don't have a better option. Like you can't grab somebody from the pen who might not see the hill that night. I don't know.
He gone.
He gone.
You got the broken arm.
Right.
By the way, speaking of the UCL, you don't know, obviously
the elbow epidemic.
I saw a thing with Dr. James Andrew, who's like the father of Tommy John surgery. I was kind of blown by this because I'm assuming he knows what he's talking about since he kind of invented the procedure.
Created it.
Yeah, he was saying that the UCL, the ligament in your elbow that gets all these pitchers keep blowing out. He said that doesn't mature until somewhere between 24 and 26.
Really?
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. He said that the biggest cause of these injuries is like terminal velocity at a young age, that you're having these people, before the ligament ever matures. And he said that he doesn't recommend someone until they're at least 20 throwing over 80 miles an hour.
Oh boy, we're in trouble.
And that's
not going to work here.
Not going to work
anywhere where they're playing baseball.
Just basically,
Jeez.
if any pitching prospect from the time they're 16 years on up are all throwing well over 80 miles an hour. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. We were talking about that the other day and what can be done about it. And he just said you should not be throwing hard when you're a teenager.
Well, so then, much like the college football thing, what do you do? I mean, because you can't.
No.
There are always going to be coaches and players and families and parents that are like, "Yeah, go out and throw your hardest," because that's kind of what kids do. How are you curbing that? You're
good
not.
luck telling a 15-year-old with a big time prospect
Hey,
and his dad
slow it down a little bit.
that he shouldn't throw more than 80. Have
Develop
fun.
a knuckleball.
A whole
I-
generation of knuckleballers.
Get
That'd
really
be
into
wild.
Tim Wakefield.
I just
Yeah.
thought it was interesting that that again, the father of Tommy John
Yeah.
surgery was like, well, if you want to know what the problem is, it's right there throwing too hard, too young. He said once the elbow matures, he says it's a different ballgame. That ligament thickens up and it can handle much more of a workload. But if you're waiting until 24 or 25 for that to happen, yeah, not certain you're going to convince a lot of players that that's a wise decision.
Saw something over the weekend that I thought you guys could both weigh in on. Sports TV beers ranked. We'll get to that as we wrap up the sports hour of the sports portion of the program on 1080 The Fan. National. Saatchi will be back on Thursday, and we will have to hear all about it. But yes, the Saatchi World Tour going well so far, it sounds.
Yeah, the rebrand has worked. I mean, Isaac Robb went to the Masters a couple years ago. He did not get to meet Peyton Manning and hang out with him. Saatchi goes and getting let into some sort of exclusive club, I guess.
So I want to get to, I saw this over the weekend during the Masters, and as avid sports viewers, I want to ask you guys your thoughts on it. A man named Kevin Clark, who writes for The Ringer, said he went out and ranked his sports TV beers.
Right.
Basically, and not beers that are on TV, but the best beers that you consume while watching sports on TV. So his list is number 1, the 3:30 afternoon college football game kickoff beer.
Solid beer. Well, I've done this with like just ranking beers in general, like the vacation beer, the garage beer,
Shower beer.
I'm a big fan of the yard work beer.
Yeah,
it's tough to beat a good yard work beer.
And
but-
do you like to do the yard work beer mid yard work or post yard work,
Well,
or
both.
Well, yeah, I guess that's a dumb
you
question.
don't start yard work with the beer. You earn that beer, and then when you finish, then there's the second, and then maybe the third or whatnot. But yeah, like you got to put in at least a 45-minute sort of effort before you crack a beer.
Disagree.
So his list is the 3:30 college football game beer.
It's good
Number
beer.
2 is his Masters beer. I guess that could be any time. I mean, could be early round, late round. It doesn't specify Thursday, Sunday, what have you.
See, Masters is more of a cocktail for me.
I would agree.
You know, I'm more likely to get into some brown than I am crack a beer, but I'm following him. Same principle.
First round of the NCAA tournament beer.
That's good.
That's
beer.
that's often a morning beer. It
That
could
is
be a
a
9
morning-
a.m. beer.
Yeah, that's one of those like where but see, it doesn't have to be that beer.
No, definitely not. But I've also done the thing where, like, I had the day off work and did the whole open to close bar situation where you watch hoops from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
I
and you
love
start
doing
then.
that in college.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Love doing that for the tournament.
The morning beer for me, that's either a vacation
Mm-hmm.
or Thanksgiving.
So that-
Thanksgiving, you're getting a morning beer.
That's the other one that makes this list is the Thanksgiving NFL beer. Like when you're watching the Lions and Packers in the early slot.
I'm not gonna lie, that 10:30 Thanksgiving sit down because I have no responsibility with the Thanksgiving meal. So I sit down in a chair and I crack one. That may be my number 1 because I know what that's going to lead to. I have no responsibilities that day. I'm going to eat myself sick. I'm going to take at least 3 naps. I'm going if we're going sports beers, I'm going Thanksgiving 10:30 Lions whoever. That's my number 1 beer.
I think that's a good one. Will,
I like
do you have one?
I like Christmas Day beer,
Okay.
especially now that football is starting to be played.
Yeah.
If it's just NBA, I have to drink it to get through there not being football played.
I'm gonna take. I like an outdoor beer. So this, granted, you have to have outdoor viewing. You have to have a screen set up. But I want something that I can watch. You know, the first inning of a baseball game and sit down with a cold one on a patio. Like it's a harder to find scenario. I do not have a television outdoors, so it's not happening at my house.
I don't either.
But I love the
one.
scenario where you're in an open air outdoors watching a screen with sitting down to start the event.
Yeah,
That's,
we're ranking in-person sports beers.
Baseball beer is the best.
Baseball
in-person.
beer is the best.
100%. The one that you bring to your seat that you bought on the way in, sit
Or
down,
brought.
first pitch.
I'll tell you, like a lot of times at sporting events, I don't even beer because it's just I'm not trying to do like but
No, but the return on your investment's not
yeah,
great.
you really gotta. If I'm drinking beers, you're gonna have to get me going for a while, and I don't want to buy 12.
It cost a pretty penny to get you turned.
But at a baseball game, that's the one where I will buy a handful of beers every single time. But
Yep.
if I go to a college football or an NFL game, it's not a guarantee that I'm buying a beer. And if
Yeah.
I am, it might be one. Baseball is different. There's something on a sunny day. I'm walking in, you go up to the pink, they got the tall boy Rainiers. I'm cracking that son of a gun. The moment I walk in, before I even get to my seat, I go and buy 2. And I'm just working my way to the seat. And then you have those 2, and then I go get food, and there's another 1 or 2 on the way. The baseball beer is by far the best in-person sports beer.
I'll tell you what, I got forced into the baseball wine at the Pink. You can buy a full bottle of wine, and I was forced, and it sucks.
So
The baseball
did you
beer-
have the whole bottle of wine yourself?
It was bought for someone else, and about halfway through it was, well, I'm going to get rid of it, and it got very much like Sook and the corn dog with his daughter of, I spent $70 on this damn thing. I am going to finish this wine.
That's that's where your age definitely will show up, and I was absolutely this way. It's like, well, we can't let that go unconsumed because of what was spent on it previously. Logic,
Right. I don't have a lot of money, and this is getting drank. The other great beer, another morning beer, 4th of July.
Yeah.
That's a great beer.
Yep.
Early morning, 4th of July, Cinco de Mayo as well. I know that those aren't necessarily sports-based, but you are going to get some sort of baseball game or a bunch of baseball games during that time. Great beers.
One of this...
I don't. 4th of July, Cinco de Mayo, St. Patty's Day, I'm not...
Great beers.
Yeah, great beers, but it's not a morning beer for me. I'm too old to wake up on St. Patty's Day and it's like, hey, it's 9:30. No, that's not happening. I think that's a young man's game.
Well, especially when that St. Patty's Day coincides with the first day of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah,
that is a glorious thing, right?
Beautiful beer.
Yeah, that's a nice 12 beers
and
right
it's
there.
A Guinness.
One of the top comments here says, "I'm not one to judge, but this list is heavy on the day drinking." And the original author goes, "Yeah, nighttime beers are not sports beers; they're just beers."
That's true. I mean, because that's just, you can have a beer anytime. When you're starting day drinking, again, that it signifies that something different is happening. Although, we probably should normalize that, a little more often.
It's a darty, man. There's nothing wrong with a little darty.
All right. Well, we have gone on the sports segment long enough. It's time for Copa Isachi, also known as Club 1080. That's coming up. The AI girlfriend industry is about to take off, and it's going to be worth how much? That's next on The Fan. any longer. Kopasachi, Club 1080, what have you. Yeah, I didn't have my drops this week because I switched seats and the little program interface wasn't working here. So I was going to spend a good amount of time embarrassing Rop and some of the things he said while he wasn't here, but Ortner's got most of that on lockdown. So that's good.
By the way, someone bringing up we're ranking beers.
Yeah.
And the number one beer for me of all time may be what this person said, and that's the river or lake beer.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Great beer.
I don't think that beer can be beat because it works for all seasons. 10 a.m., 10 p.m., 90 degrees, 45 degrees. Fishing, floating, swimming, you name it. The river/lake beer.
Any season,
any
beer, weather.
It works.
Yeah.
There's no, find me a bet, like there's no more appropriate time.
No, I'd 100% agree
to
with
have
you.
a beer than when you're on the water.
I also really, really like the end of a. It can be the end of a golf round beer. It could be the end of a snowboarding day beer. But like you've spent a day or 5 to 6 hours doing something where you were more than likely sweating a bunch or whatever.
That's the same thing as the after yard work beer.
Yeah, it is like the yard work beer. It's the unwind beer. I love that one.
You finished a mission accomplished, and then you reward yourself. Whereas the river lake beer, the adventure. It's a process.
Mm-hmm.
You just start and you reward yourself all day long. Which again, if I'm ranking my beers, I think that may be my number one beer of all beers.
And the one that I was kind of trying to circle earlier, this texter's in, the outdoor flat screen fire pit beer is godly. I would have to agree with that.
Big fan of the shower pregame beer. The first beer, you're hitting the shower, the boys are coming over, you're going to go out and get after it. I love that beer. Usually there's 2 of them in that.
There's something wonderfully refreshing about a shower beer. I don't know. I mean, it's not like the lake or river beer, but there's something about feeling water while you're drinking the cold beer that's just wonderful.
Again, some people may say you need to go to meetings. I'm saying it's more like having a spa day. I'm also ranking the travel pub beer. You're foreign country.
Oh, yeah,
You don't really, maybe you speak the language, maybe you don't know the customs, you don't know anyone, you're just kind of wandering in someplace, but you stumble into a whatever it is, bar, pub, smaller the better, fewer people the better, and there's one universal language, and that's you're going to have a beer and you're going to have a great time.
Yeah.
Like you do that, and that works from it's.
And there's the generic sign language. Even if you don't have the language, you can do one of these. And everybody knows.
When I was in Japan, we were waiting in line for, I guess it's this place in Tokyo. They say it's the number 1 ramen place in all of Tokyo.
Okay.
And it is such a hole in the wall. I can't. Like, you have to walk up these steps that I can't even fit up. I had to turn sideways, and there's only I
think I know the place you're talking about.
There's like 10 seats in the whole place. It's such an absolute...
Kind of a counter situation?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so there's this big line, and so my family was waiting in line, and I had to go use the can. And on my way back from the can, I stumbled across this bar, I guess, and it was a counter again with maybe 5 seats, and it was the shadiest looking group of people all singing karaoke. And I was like, what?
Perfect.
This
is my scene.
I just stuck my head in. I was like, what is... Next thing you know, some dude's handing me some giant bottle of beer. I don't know how much it is. No one spoke a word of English, but I sat my ass down and I became part of that community. Like those sorts of beers, an Irish pub beer in Dublin, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's the travel beer.
The beer that lends
great.
to the experience you're having is awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
First
I
beer
think
in Mexico beer.
Yeah, or if you've ever been traveling abroad and you're like the beer on a train or the beer on a trout, like if you're or a beer on a boat that's taking you from island to island, the beer in transit is lovely as well.
This is a good one too, Vancouver Ford text line. Somebody just canceled your event you never wanted to go to anyways, and now your whole evening is suddenly free beer. It's a great beer.
Yep.
I'm not gonna lie. You didn't want to go. You're bitching and moaning, and then next thing you know, like maybe it's like a wedding or your missus is taking you somewhere, and all of a sudden it's canceled. You take your pants off, and you're like, "Yep, starting the evening right here." It's a damn good beer. Damn good.
This is another good one on the Vancouver Ford text line. I'm a teacher, first day of summer, no students beer.
Oh, okay, yeah. When you basically you finished a chapter.
I've gotten that one summer. I'm looking forward to this summer's first beer.
This one's this text pointing out a role player, the sitting next to the smoker waiting for the food to be ready beer. When you were smoking, smoking meats or you're grilling. No, not sitting next to a person smoking, but you're sitting next to the meat smoker. You're waiting on ribs. You're waiting on steak, pulled pork, something like that.
Yeah, that's again, it falls under the backyard beer category.
It definitely does.
Look, the backyard beer is always just like, if you're in the backyard, having a beer is never a bad idea.
Yeah.
Unless you're like burying a dog or something. Like, there's something sad back there. But most of the time you're in the backyard, that is, you're going to enjoy yourself a beverage. But yes, the standing around while someone cooks, that's a solid. I'd rather be doing that than doing the grilling.
Where do you guys land on the pre-flight airport beer? Required, not really your thing. Some people swear by it. Others are like, I take it or leave it. Others are like, why would I spend that at the airport?
I'm anti it. I actually get motion sickness.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I do not drink before getting on a plane.
Oh.
Like at all.
I would say that's more of a that's going to get me with more of a cocktail or wine.
Yeah.
The
that's
pre-flight.
True. That's true.
Like, what's the place right there at PDX when you go through the security, the little wine bar right there on your left?
Yeah, it's
it used to be where the piano guy played.
Yeah, it's right there, and
it's like a Vino Volo or something like that.
Something like that. And if you're like a Priority Pass member, you get like a free glass of cheap wine over there. And yeah, that's more of a pre-flight is going to be more of a cocktail or a glass of wine. I'm not breaking out a beer now. Connecting flight, waiting at an airport, that's a beer.
Yeah.
Like if I'm stuck in Atlanta on a 3-hour layover,
you just found out your flight was going to get delayed. That's a beer.
That's a beer, 100%. That doesn't feel like cocktail. That doesn't feel like wine. No, that's 100% a beer. Like there's just different. A beer time versus cocktail wine time. There's a feeling to it. Like if I'm going to the Keller Auditorium to see a Broadway show or a musical act or was it more like a stand-up comedy thing? Again, that's not really a beer. That's a cocktail. That's a wine. There's a feel. Whereas the sporting event is almost always a beer.
People are coming out of the woodwork now with their favorite beers. This one's great. 2 years ago, my wife and I had just finished up the last session of chemo, and now we're just sitting around the pool beer.
That's a great beer.
That's a hell of a beer.
No, I've never had that beer, nor do I want that beer.
No, but if you go through all that and you get that beer, excellent.
Sure.
Additionally, P1 Otter telling us, as a coach, a post-game beer always tastes better, especially versus a loss, but a beer after coaching a win is the best.
Coaching.
The coaching beer.
Coach, my 8th graders do a dominant victory. Better crack this Budweiser right now. I don't know.
It's a good beer.
I don't know that one. I don't coach, so
I know it on different fronts. It's a lot better when you're a volleyball coach because you have no idea what's happening.
I'm like, oh, what? Yeah, I don't have that one. So I'm saying that's a beer needs to be a new saying. Yeah, I think you can do that.
Yeah.
Someone, congratulations on you know what? That's a beer. Well, my favorite Super Bowl commercial over the last 10 years is and I'm pretty sure it was Budweiser.
Mm-hmm.
And it was right around the pandemic when, people were struggling, and the whole thing was, it was just a series of people saying, let's get a beer.
Mm-hmm.
Some were happy times, some were sad times, like someone got fired, someone's this, and it's like, hey, let's go grab a beer. And it's like 10 of these different scenarios, and then the end tagline is, a beer just isn't a beer. And it was like, look, we all need each other. We all need to come together.
It's what connects us. Yeah, yes. That sort of thing.
I just love that. There is something to that. You haven't seen there's another one. You haven't seen a buddy in a while. You know what? That's a beer.
Yeah. And for me, like, I'll save the tailgate beer because I'm usually here on Saturdays doing duck stuff. But if I get to go have a tailgate beer down in Autzen, it's before a football game. It's with college buddies. It's nostalgic. You get to add some layers to it that are nice.
Yes. There's just one of those. If you haven't, someone's saying it sounds like there's never a bad time to have a beer. Not true. There's just a lot of quality beer times.
It usually ends up being more often wine or a little bit of brown liquor in our house. But for a parent of young children, the bedtime has been complete beer is top notch. So like if you got multiple kids that you're getting down and that's a struggle, the one that you get to crack right when everyone's asleep, that's a good beer.
I have a. I don't have that now. It's weird.
And that resonates with me like directly right now.
Well, now it's a little weird because like I'll if I crack a beer now, like my son, I'm still getting used to it, but I'm like, because he'll be at the house, and then you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah, you can have one.
and that's a good one too. Let me say this: the first time you have a beer with your son, that's a good beer.
Yeah,
It's a
Still
quality.
waiting on that.
It'll be a while, hopefully.
I still remember mine though. My dad got me a 12-pack of Corona when I turned 18, and he was like, "You can vote, you can die for your country. If people think that you're responsible enough to do that, then you're probably responsible enough to drink these too."
I don't remember the first time that my son and me had it might have been Mexico. I think it was Mexico. I think we were down, maybe he was like 16 or 17, and it's Mexico, and it wasn't like civilized Mexico too. It was like off the beaten path. There's like dirt roads, weird shanty bar that we were at, restaurant, and and I think I asked him, I was like, do you want a beer? And he was like, can I? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, I'm not. He's like, I'm not 21. I'm like, look where we're at, son. Like then like a 12-year-old goes riding by with like a 6-pack on a girl's 10-speed. I'm like, we're fine. I think Mexico was probably that first beer.
Yeah.
But I remember when the same thing. This last time we were in Japan a year ago. We met my special lady friend, the BTJ, and her brother and one of his coworkers, and he knew an after-hours sake bar. And we walked in, little hole in the wall, and it was no one but us.
That's awesome.
So it was me, my family, him, and a coworker, and it was the first time like me and all my kids all drank together. My youngest was old enough, kinda, and we all sat there and we shut that place down at like 2 a.m. just drinking sake, and it was really fun.
Yeah.
The first time you got everyone together, that's one that I won't forget.
All right, more of your favorite and even least favorite beers and beverages coming in on the Vancouver 4 text line. We'll get to that, plus the AI girlfriend industry that is about to boom. That's coming up next in the club on the Fan.
The home of Dirt and Spray.
unrelated note, but I just was on Twitter and I saw that ASAP Rocky is at Coachella right now.
Okay.
And he's wearing 4 pairs of underwear and 2 pairs of pants.
Why?
And
He's a fashion bro.
That's...
4 pairs of underwear is not.
And he's got them
fashion.
stacked, right? So like he's like the one pair of underwear is like pulled up to like his belly button, and they're all like the plaid boxers. And then the next pair is a little bit below that, and then a little bit below that, and then a little bit below that, to where like, and then the first pair of pants is right at like ball level, and then he's got a second pair of pants that's like 2 inches below that. That can't be comfortable, can it? Like
I wouldn't imagine.
That's like a Chandler Friends thing. Could I be wearing any more clothes?
Well, maybe that'll help him not get Rihanna pregnant again.
I guess 4 pairs of undies and like just the loose. First off, who's wearing those loose ass boxers nowadays, anyways? But 4 pair?
Yeah, I don't.
Boy, fashion is a hell of a thing.
I can't begin. Well, and here's the other thing, and this is what starts to drive me crazy. Is objectively, you and I can say that doesn't make any sense, and I can say that that's silly, or and Will tell me no, but he's fashion. And
No, it's so stupid.
No, I know, but the thing is, for whatever reason, because ASAP Rocky is ASAP Rocky's, there are still a group of people treating this fashion choice with reverence. That this is something that should be followed.
It's a big deal with my generation.
The idea of having pants. I don't know how those pants stay up. I've never understood the pants below the ass. I don't understand how you walk around like that.
Me neither.
But
they just don't have ass.
But they're still below. They still have to be held up by something, let alone 2 pairs. And 4, I would just think that the slippage factor with 4 pairs of stacked underwear and 2 pairs of pants, all at varying degrees, I would just think from a logistical standpoint, that's a nightmare.
Maybe they want slippage.
Is that the whole thing? Is that you're just... How often when you see people wearing underwear and pants that low, how often do those go down to the ankles? Is that a regular occurrence?
I don't, because once you get over the curve or of the buttocks, what's keeping it there? You're just cinching it with a belt, and as you walk, that's naturally going to drop, right?
I would think.
I would think too.
Just because it's, you're obviously applying pressure around the thighs with a belt to keep said pants up.
It just seems.
But that's
like a headache.
It's like putting a rubber band on something. Eventually, it's going to slip through as you move. Because again, you have leg walking. I don't understand that.
Text line says swamp ass and nut fog.
Well, yeah. I don't know. I'm assuming it's fairly warm at Coachella right now.
Yeah.
You're wearing 4 pairs of underwear and 2 pairs of pants.
No.
I would guess that there's some crotch cooking going down there. I'm guessing there's some stewage happening there. You're walking around Coachella and you're performing that way.
I don't know that he was performing.
He's not
at Coachella.
performing. He's just cruising
around.
around.
No, guy, you just go to Coachella. If you're like anybody who's anybody, you just go. You party.
No, I see him on stage. He's performing.
Oh, I'm wrong. Okay. Hand up. I'm wrong.
No, he's there with the...
I apologize.
Yeah, the 4... And he's doing a lot of leaning over. And I think that may be part of the strategy.
The fact that you have to have a strategy is what makes it problematic for me. I don't want something where I have to change my movements so greatly to make sure my clothes don't fall off.
Yeah, right there. Actually, that might be 5 pairs of underwear now that I'm examining it, but it's a lot of...
Why not up the stakes,
Well, that might be why he's wearing it. He wants a bunch of people to examine the underwear.
Yeah.
This is actually a genius move. I'm now back on Team Rocky.
But you can't really see any part of the underwear. Like, there's no labels or anything. You just see varying forms of plaid.
Well, no free ads.
No free ads. Like, I would assume that maybe he would, like
it'd be the new Kim Kardashian underwear company or something like that? Yeah.
Maybe it is. I don't know. And he's on top of a tank now for some reason. Tell you what, man. Culture's a hell of a thing.
It's ASAP mob.
Well, speaking of our culture, how big do you think the AI girlfriend industry is going to get?
If there is a way that I could invest right now into lonely men having sex with computers, so I will take my entire life savings and put it to work. Show me where to invest in a company that is leading the charge into men having sex with hot robots. It's just, whatever that is, that's the thing. and it's a coming.
I don't know about whether this group will actually end up providing the robots, but one to keep an eye on would be the Match Group. Now, the Match Group is the parent company of Match.com, Tinder, Hinge. I did not realize that it was all of them. So it's Tinder, Match.com, Hinge, OkCupid, and Plenty of Fish.
The same.
The Match Group is the parent of all of them.
Oh,
so
I can't say I knew that.
And I didn't know that either until I was reading this article, but they have a $9 billion market cap right now. And speculation,
again, a lot of lonely people.
Speculation from another tech exec. This would be, let's see, this is Greg Eisenberg of Late Checkout, and he says that he believes this could become, with a market cap like that, a $1 billion industry.
Oh, I have no doubt. Again, lonely men and women to some extent.
Yep.
But mostly lonely men, lonely horny men, and lonely horny men that aren't. We have a problem in that now with porn and Instagram and just everything so readily available.
Doesn't see an issue.
The amount of men that feel like they deserve a woman
Or should have
yeah, what they see on Instagram and what they see in porn versus what they are and what really they could get. There is a widening gap. And if you give those men an opportunity to have some form of weird interactive relationship, especially one involving sex, with a fictionalized version of that 9 or 10 that under no circumstances they could ever get, brother, business is about to be a booming.
Yeah, so Greg Eisenberg, and granted, one case study does not make an entire theory on how big this is going to boom, but he was talking to a 24-year-old single male down in Miami that he told him he spends $10,000 a month on his AI girlfriends.
Gross.
He said, I thought he was kidding, and then when he asked about it, he said that he loves it. And he was quoted as saying, some people play video games, I play with my AI girlfriends.
Well, can we define what playing with? So
that's what I wondered.
I get the sex doll thing.
This is not that,
It's
which surprised me, and I don't doubt that this could evolve into that for people, or there's going to be something that'll eventually allow you to connect that. But in this case, he's talking specifically about AI websites where men or women can go on and basically customize and create their own girlfriends, and they get to
me? Is this Sims?
Well, so it says
sounds like that.
like Candy.ai bills itself as the ultimate AI girlfriend experience, virtual companions for immersive and personalized chats. Basically, what it ends up being is kind of like someone to talk to that you can create an AI picture of, but it'll become complete with a voice. Yeah. You can leave them voice memos, and they will leave you voice memos. You can do things like indicate that you want to do sexting, and that basically responses should come with stuff like that.
So again, if you're into
not doing it,
if you're into,
you're not doing it, but they're paying this $10,000 a month.
But that's the thing. It's like it's the reason why people pay for OnlyFans is it's the access to it. So you get to sit down and create. So you get to create. Okay, I like really tall girls, but I like Asians. Well, there's not a lot of tall Asians. Yes, there is. I'm creating a 6'1" Asian, who, by the way, loves sports, has a giant rack but a tiny waist, and all she wants to do is talk to me about my fantasy football team, and wants to talk and like sext me 24/7 a day. Like, you're literally creating. It's the weird science. You're creating a perfect woman, which, by the way, in no way is perfect. That is beyond creepy. You're basically creating a female version of yourself to then pleasure yourself to. And eventually what's going to happen is this is just going to pair with one of the realistic, like, the
That's
sex
exactly
dolls.
right. They're going to be, whether it's Match Group or somebody else, an AI company is going to partner with a sex doll company, and they are going to merge these two worlds. And suddenly, did you ever see that movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix?
Yes.
Where basically it was all like an AI earpiece, but you could order up like a human host or whatever that your AI companion was like essentially synced to act out the part that's what we might be headed towards.
This is, and like, I don't do the whole, oh, it's the downfall of society and and this crap. Like, every generation has their own problems. Our past generations had polio and Great Depressions and world wars. We have loneliness and Instagram body standards. So let's all put this in perspective a little bit. It's still pretty good to be alive, but this will be a thing. 100%. This is going to be it already is. Like, they're saying that, like, a lot of teenage boys have no interest in sex already. They're becoming asexual. The case for me. Or the ones that do want to have sexual relationships can't perform. They're impotent because they've had such early exposure to hardcore pornography and fantasies, and the real thing can't live up to it. It's, anxiety problems. People can't ask each other out. I mean, there's already a bevy of problems, and you are going to create the ultimate weird safe world where someone who isn't successful with girls, can't talk to girls, isn't attractive, whatever.
You're programming it to be your perfect ideal with no consequence on the back end.
And that's problem with this is that once you have this, no real relationship will ever suffice, because you're not going to find a girl that looks like this, talks like this, that doesn't have a problem with it. You're basically creating a slave. I mean, that's so, and
kinda, yeah.
How you don't think that this is a weird road to go down? This is one of those that I think that as this stuff becomes more realistic in the VR goggles, and this is I do not want to see 2 generations from now and the problems that you're going to have growing up, because when y'all remember being like 13, 14, the first time you got a kiss, or maybe when you're 15, 16, the first time or maybe it was a little bit older, wherever your first experience and how kind of weird and awkward it was.
The nerves, the butterflies, like, that's like part of growing up.
The doves flying.
It's part of, I mean.
The trumpet sounding.
All of it.
Yeah, you're going to get 13-year-old boys that are going to have
the most warped sense of reality.
It's going to
regarding the opposite sex or same sex, whatever. Hanging by a thread again. If you can't tell what just happened. No, he didn't get a new sex bot. No, Sook's Red Wings tied it up with 3.3 seconds to go.
They did it again.
All right.
Well, they haven't done it. It's tied.
Well, since we brought that topic crashing to a halt, we will get back on track next. Here's Ortner with SportsCenter.
I love the Red Wings now.
Now, from the fan.
Welcome back to the club. Plenty of thoughts coming in on the Vancouver 4 text line, both about AI girlfriends and the best beers. Still lots of that. And Souk, how are we doing up there on the ice?
The Red Wings scored. If you don't know, so it's the last game of the NHL regular season, and the Red Wings need a win and a Capitals loss to get into the postseason for the first time in a decade. They were down a goal. They've been down a goal basically all game. They were down a goal with 3 seconds left, pulled the goalie, and scored to send it into OT. So now it's 4-4. They still have to win this in OT. Problem is I've got the Capitals game up on my computer screen. And the son of a gun Capitals just scored with 2 minutes left against the Flyers.
And your Wings just took a penalty. Did you say that?
Yeah. So unfortunately, this may be a moot point. If Washington wins, because they have the tiebreaker, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
We need the Capitals to lose, and that was 1-1 all game. And 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go. And we need Philadelphia to pull off a monster comeback here and then find a way for Detroit to get over the hump in this.
This from the Vancouver Ford text line. In 20 years, the good beer will be the post-text sex AI girlfriend beer.
Well, it's so weird that we're raising a generation of people.
Not all.
Not all.
Definitely not
but
all.
We are raising a generation of people that can't communicate with each other. You know, there's an inability to do it, and even if you can, you're also raising a generation of. And I think it was Variety that I read this, and they were talking about study out of Yale or whatnot, the disposable nature of dating sites.
Okay.
That it's getting harder and harder to convince anyone that you should stick anything out.
Yeah.
Because if you go on a date on a Tinder app, and you show up and the girl is 10 pounds heavier than what the picture showed, or her hair isn't the same way, or maybe you sit down with her and she orders, something happens in the first part of the date that is a fairly minor thing. And in your brain, you've already, and can go vice versa too, the girl to the guy.
Sure.
You've already told yourself, why would I do this? I have 17 more matches on my phone. In fact, they're saying that in a study that they did, I want to say it was like 40% of females and it was like 60% of males will actually go on a dating site while on a date. Like the girl will go to the bathroom
and see what her next options are,
and see what else is there.
I had this happen to a buddy.
Really?
No, but he was the new one. She was on a Tinder date. My buddy walked in, matched with my buddy while she was in the bathroom, and then went on a date with my buddy after that guy left.
Yeah. And so it's like we're just being conditioned that the next thing is always the best thing. And I don't know what that looks like in another generation or two, but it's an interesting conundrum that, again, I'm happy that I'm not necessarily out in that world. And then you're hearing from a lot of women that they're as culpable as anyone else in it, but you're hearing from a ton of women that are just beyond frustrated because they're being viewed as a disposable asset.
Yeah. Well, when the whole mechanics of a Tinder is to swipe and discard. You're throwing the photos in the trash. Not this one, trash this one, trash this one, trash this one.
Yeah.
At some point you build a mentality for that. So
and you're getting a lot of guys that are very frustrated because if you aren't, let's say you're more of a your personality grows on you. Or you're a nice guy, you got something going for you, maybe you got a nice job, whatever, but you're not the most attractive person.
The looker, yeah.
You're not the looker, or maybe you don't photograph well or whatever. For a lot of those people, you feel like you're being put into a box because you have a not even 2 seconds. You have half a second to grab someone's eye.
Yeah.
And God forbid that you don't jump off the page. You can sign up for a dating site and have no matches whatsoever. Whereas the girl, on the other hand, you ever see the inbox of a girl's dating app?
It's ridiculous.
It's
there's so much thirst coming in,
and it's nightmare fuel too.
Oh yeah,
it's like a guy messages
a lot of unwanted stuff.
Yeah, a guy messages a girl, and by the way, she gets 200 of them a day. And if she doesn't get back to said guy in 5 hours, the next message from him is, "You bitch! I hope you die. You think you're too good?" And then you get this very angry, charged up male
person
population
that's been rejected and
what I forget
hasn't dealt with that. Incels.
Proud to
incels.
say that I have not. That is not something that's come from me, but I went to school with a lot of guys that are like that. I do think there is a counterculture now where there's a lot of people like me that don't want to be on the app. Like I've never been on an app. That's not something for me. I feel like that's a weird way to meet someone. I'd rather meet someone in person. I do think that there is a move back to that for my generation.
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, I'll be the first to say I met my wife on a dating app, and it was I was having a hard time meeting people because I was working nights and weekends in San Francisco. So it was like
that's brutal.
I couldn't go out to bars with my buddies on Friday and Saturday because I was producing pre or post game shows, and like, oh yeah, you want to go out and get drinks on a Tuesday and get loaded? Not too many chicks do. And so like I felt like I could put more irons in the fire that way, and certainly it worked for me. But there's so much virtue to meeting people naturally and in person and through friends and things like that. It's not going to happen for everybody, and that's why online sites for dating I think are great. But you start now giving these options where they're not options to date; they're options to talk to computer code.
Yeah, that's why. I went the mail order route myself and went to the Far East, and it's worked out great. It's been several years, and she complains
BTJ,
a little.
Man.
She complains a little bit sometimes. The BTJ and gives me a black eye a time or two, allegedly. But hey, it's nice. You get
Isn't there a cinnamon roll and a fork incident?
Yeah, she did stab me with a red hot cinnamon roll.
Nice.
That is a 100% true story. In Iceland, I don't remember what I did, but she stabbed me with a fork. And when I wasn't affected by it, I laughed at it. She proceeded to take the fork and pick up a red hot cinnamon roll that had just come out of the microwave, and then take that and then jab that against me. Because when the fork didn't hurt bad enough, here, I'll just burn you with a cinnamon roll. And then people wonder if you question why I get black eyes all the time. But someone said this one's true. The Vancouver Ford text line. I've heard this a bunch, that women are doing the 666, right? They want 6 figures, 6 feet tall, and a 6-pack ab.
Okay.
And I've actually seen a breakdown of someone has done this of the percentage of men that are over 6 feet tall.
That criteria.
It's like less than 1%. And of that 1%, how many of those are single and how many of those are looking for you?
The other problem with that, though, is it's 6 feet tall, but there is a cutoff. You cannot be – it's really like 5'11" to 6'2", because once you hit 6'3", 6'4", God forbid 6'5", then you are in the danger zone of, well, that guy is scary no matter what you do.
A couple numbers from a recent survey from Infobip showed that nearly 20% of Americans have already flirted with chatbots. Nearly half of them, 47.5%, did so out of curiosity, like they wanted to. 23.9% said that they were lonely and seeking interaction. And then 17% said they were AI phished, meaning that they did not realize they were talking to a chatbot. And the survey also found that 12.2% were seeking sexual-related chats within a private space. Yes. I bet that number is higher.
That's a lot higher than people. No one wants to be like,
I'm looking for love, but you're not.
A surprising celebrity sighting. That'll wrap it up next on The Fan.
A college gridiron reset.
It is called the college
ductitude. And so I should just shut up. But at the same time, when you've been bad for a decade and you finally think you're going to be good, and then you're not, you're just, it's a little disheartening.
Week or two ago.
One game short. One game.
And that's rough because then you start to think back of the different games you could have had. I hate that.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, Rob brought up that we saw Gene Hackman out in the wild for the first time in a while. I saw another former actor and current director. Have you seen Clint Eastwood recently?
I don't think I want to see Clint Eastwood.
He's been kind of in hermitage, but apparently he is working at age 94 on an upcoming movie called Juror Number 2. And here's old Clint.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
He looks like number 2.
He looks like maybe working isn't what he should be doing anymore, but apparently it's what he loves, and he's still going for it. I think he's been a little bit reclusive. There have been some reports of either like Alzheimer's or dementia or things like that with his mental faculties going on, but apparently still well enough to be directing movies.
Good Lord. That's like Unabomber sort of just disheveled.
I mean, he's 94.
Yeah, I mean, hey, good for Clint Eastwood. But to be fair, Clint's looked a little rough for a while.
He has. And I don't actually think he looks particularly, I mean, his hair's really disheveled. But
it's a little alarming when you see the...
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the beard and the, and kind of the wild... I think Doc Brown...
yeah, there's a little Doc Brown going on with that.
And his pants are pulled up to his nipples. Yeah, it's the best way to describe it. He's got a little Doc Brown Back to the Future sort of thing happening for him. But, I mean, I'll see photos of him on set where it's way better. The hair's combed.
Sure.
And he's got headphones on. And he's, hey, at 94 and you're able to do something besides soil yourself, dude, count that as a win.
Yeah, apparently he was attending a Jane Goodall event. So.
Oh, yeah, the gorillas and... Is that the gorillas or is that the chimpanzees?
I think that she's the Gorillas in the Mist gal, right? I don't know.
I can't remember. I always get those...
What's the difference?
Well,
I don't know.
One's gorillas, one's chimps. Those are two
same thing.
Those are two very,
same
very
same
different
rough
things.
family.
The great apes. I forget which one, but yeah, she's involved with the great apes.
Yes.
But-
She's done a lot of ape research.
Well, let me just say this. Clint Eastwood is an ultimate badass, whether you like him or not.
Yep.
Dude, that guy's life, that guy has won. And at 94, to be still doing something that you want to do, first off, I'm not going to be